You're watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Sunday, August 9th, 2020. I am your host, Kayla McCullough, and in today's top fake news story, it's from The Guardian. It says, anti-fascists linked to 0 murders in the United States in the past 25 years. Well, I'll be damned. There's almost 20,000 murders in the United States. About 50% of them committed by black people. About 54% of the victims are black people. So 25 years times that by 20, you do the math, that's like 500,000 people. So you're saying out of 500,000 people, none of these people were Antifa? All right, let's see what it says. Donald Trump has made warnings about the threat from the far-left fascism a central part of his re-election campaign. And these people don't understand that in Nazi Germany, they started out as far-left, socialist and communist, and then they turned far-right when they got a dictator, right? You don't just like start out on the far right. You got to start somewhere. And then usually you're trying to struggle for something you thought that was taken from you. Somebody like wronged you, killed some people, so you got to get back at them. And then people start killing each other, right? A central part of his re-election campaign, but in reality, left-wing attacks have far fewer people dead than violence by right-wing extremists, new research indicates. An Antifa activist has not been linked to a single murder in decades. Wow. So you mean to tell me, out of the approximately 10,000 black people who murder people per year, and the like 10,800 people murdered by black men murdered, black people, mostly men murdered, none of those people were leftist? None of them were Antifa? All right. A new database of nearly 900 potentially motivated attacks and plots in the United States since 1994 includes just one staged by anti-fascists that led to fatalities. In that case, a single person was killed by the perpetrator. Over the same period, Americans, white supremacists, and other right-wing active extremists have carried out attacks that have left at least 329 victims dead, according to the database. So, I don't know about you, but I can do a real quick math analysis of that in my head. That's going to be that divided by 25 years. That's going to be about 10 people per year, and plus an extra 13 people per year, right? Pat on the back. It seems as though I've spilled my coffee. I gotta deal with something real quick. Whoops. So, only one attack. Huh. What about in China? Right? You're talking about America. We don't have a communist government and we don't have a fascist government. So why on earth would you just expect there to be killings in a place where there's not? And like, given that there's 20,000 murders per year, and this is 13 out of 20,000, that's like a tiny little sliver of the population of the people who murder people. Obviously, these people who write these articles have a skewed perspective because none of the stuff that these people say makes sense. Let's read further. More broadly, the database listed 21 victims killed by left-wing attacks since 2010. 117 victims of right-wing attacks in the same period, nearly 6 times as much attacks. So that right there, that goes completely against the headline. You're like, oh, well, no, it wasn't like the Antifa. Like, well, wait a minute. I thought you said that Antifa wasn't a group of people, that it's like an ideology of people, right? Right. So, like, this ideology causes people to fight each other and want to kill each other. And so what they're neglecting here, well, here, let's read further. Attacks inspired by the Islamic State and similar jihadist groups, in contrast, have killed 95 people since 2010, slightly fewer than right-wing extremists, according to the dataset. More than half of these victims died in a single attack on a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida in 2016. Left wing has no major terrorism threat. Okay, so this is fake. What about the Dayton, Ohio shooter?
What about this guy? This is the guy who shot up that bar in Ohio. Here's one of his posts. It says, quote unquote, kill every fascist. So this guy's pretty Antifa. So if you like this content, Real Simple News is an open source news organization. You can find us on GitHub at github.com/Real Simple News. But it's issue ticket 69, but it's a lot easier for you to find it at realsimplenews.net/issue 69, where if you want to make a donation to help keep the show going, you can do so at the bottom of the page. You could also find a link to the issue ticket, where you can also find links that I will post after the show for the articles that I read. Sometimes I have to do multiple shows in a batch, so expect a day or two after sometimes. But we definitely do need some donations to keep the show going. I am not a rich person, and we do need new equipment. This equipment is not very reliable. I've been working for about 10 hours just trying to get the equipment to work because, it's cheap stuff. But donations would help us grow and give you better content and make sure there's no errors in it. So in this next article from New York Post, Dayton shooter Connor Betts may be Antifa's first mass killer. Over the weekend, America suffered 2 mass shootings within hours of one another in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. These followed another mass shooting in Gilroy, California, a week earlier. Alleged perpetrators of the attacks were young lone wolf gunmen. All 3 carried out carnage against innocent using high-powered rifles. Also, Santino, Legan, Gilroy, Patrick, Cirrus from El Paso, and Connor Betts in Dayton killed 34 people, injured dozens more. While the attacks are similar, the response from liberals and leftists has been anything but. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and Bernie Sanders sufficiently condemned white nationalism, the ideology espoused by the El Paso shooter, in his purported 2,300-word manifesto. And I think people kind of get this confused. There's been radicalization going on from the Southern Poverty Law Center and MSNBC and other groups. The SPLC is a horrible, detestable organization that is just trying to scam you for donations. They have a hate map. In order to get you to donate, they have to make you afraid that there's these hate groups coming after you. But if you look at their hate map level, it's at the lowest it's ever been. So if they so they have to label popular people that are contrary to their message, such as Stefan Molyneux. They have to label them as alt-right in order to deplatform them because you're a threat. No, you're not a threat to them. You are their money source. You are the person that they're scamming, that they're trying to make afraid that the boogeyman is coming after you. And they've been in cahoots with all of the other shady ivory tower liberal journalists. A lot of these people will go to Ivy League schools and then they'll go get a job at the New York Times or the Washington Post, and they will gentrify your neighborhood, and they completely fucking suck at their job. They could not write good journalism to save their life. I think that they're pathetic. They're losers. And they take over the place. They fire everybody who's actually good. My skills would definitely be a threat to them. They would have to try to get rid of me because I'm criticizing them. You can't do that. That's a threat to them. You're the toxic one. But what they don't understand is that they perpetually engage in what is called toxic positivity. These people, they are so into self-help because they want to go to the top. So a lot of them are brainwashed by self-help gurus. They're always trying to get to the next level. So they're putting off gratification. So they're not sociable anymore. And in order to control the workplace, they label people as toxic and as agitators. In order to get you fired, they want to cancel you. And the reason why is because there's a human instinct to make people not argue around babies. So there's this group of spineless individuals out there that if you aren't a brainwashed drone, that they will pounce on you. They'll team up on you because there's many of it's a element of human nature. You can't just get rid of it. It's something you have to live with. There's like people that have these urges to make people not want to argue around the child, probably because of lots of wars in the past. But they are extremely toxic. You can read the Laws of Human Nature. It's by Robert Greene, a very famous conservative author, and it gives you a lot of insights into how toxic this group of Ivy League journalists are. And I didn't know about the brainwashing thing till I saw some videos of some people who have been scammed by these self-help gurus. But apparently, it's really bad. These people, these self-help gurus, they can't actually fix your problem, because if they would do that, then you would not continue to buy the product. So they have to give you just enough to get you to come to the next seminar. And what it ends up doing is it eats up all the time that you could spend actually being productive, like me. And it turns them into depressed, very angry, brainwashed drones. I swear to God, it's actually happening. There's all kinds of self-help guru scammers out there. I'm an open source person, so I just give my stuff away. So I'm not going to try to scam you with that, but I am actually a productivity. I don't want to say guru because I'm not really expert, but I do actually have a book, and it's, not finished yet, but do have some skills. But I do like doing everything for open source. So if you do donate to the show, that will keep the open source going, and you do actually get free books out of the deal. But okay, so these people, the Ohio shooter. Let's see what this guy said. So here's one tweet. He was at. It says, "I want socialism. And I'll not wait for the idiots to finally come around to understand." One says, "Kill every fascist." His Twitter page says, he/him/anime fan/metalhead/leftist/ I'm going to hell and I'm not coming back. Yes, you should be wary of people who label themselves as leftists. Here is a serial killer, a mass shooter, who, what did he do? Let's read his Wikipedia page, the Dayton shooting on August 4th, 2019. Connor Stephen Betts, 24, fatally shot 9 people and wounded 7 others near the entrance of Ned Pepper's Bar in the Oregon District of Dayton, Ohio. Betts was fatally shot by responding police officers 32 seconds after his first shot. Wow, that was quick. An additional 10 persons were injured by other causes, bringing the total number of wounded to 27. The search of the shooter's home found evidence that showed interest in violence, mass shootings. He had expressed a desire to commit one. Despite describing him as a leftist and voicing support for Antifa, a preliminary assessment did not indicate that Betts had a racial or political motive. The attack occurred just 13 hours after mass shooting in El Paso, Texas. And I'm going to push back. They're saying that the people who determined there was no motive do not know of Steven Pinker's research. Steven Pinker is a world famous psychologist who is also the left is trying to cancel. He came up with the law of universal morals, which they did a study around the world with number of hundreds of thousands of people, and they showed that all people around the world have certain classifications of morals. They are fairness, cleanliness, authority, and group loyalty. And self-protection. Yeah. So lefties value fairness above everything else. If things are not fair, they get upset and they might kill somebody. Leftists are, for example, communist. Communists have killed over 100 million people. They start out as communist, but then they develop a hierarchy. And then whenever they develop a hierarchy, this makes them far right. People don't understand what far left and far right mean. Left versus right politics. You do need to understand this. The farthest left is the flattest hierarchy. The farthest right is the steepest hierarchy. Communism's the flattest. It's only theoretical. Never really actually happens because you end up with people biasing everything towards their in-group. And then you've got on the farthest right, you have it by definition Nazism because it's ultra ethno-nationalism. Strongman ultra ethno-nationalism, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but that means they have a dictator. It's a fight to the top to see who is the most bloody dictator. And the fight started between Joseph Stalin and Hitler. Well, first, Hitler and Stalin were on the same side. They actually had a plan to share Europe. And because they were socialist, National Socialism was supposed to be an evolution on social. It was supposed to be a more evolved version of communism where you had private ownership and there was competition because Marxism doesn't have competition. So that was their alternative, was to have a high social hierarchy where you move up. And so China is closely mirroring their National Socialist hierarchy because they have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese in the countryside, millions of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. They have ultra-rich Chinese in the cities. They're using the country as a baby factory, which is kind of weird. They have the old people raise the kids out in the country. They send the kids out into the city so they could send money back. So they're definitely a baby factory by every stretch of the imagination. They have a dictator who looks like Winnie the Pooh. And they are trying to be the world's number one superpower. They have a surveillance state. So these are the hallmark. Oh yeah, they allow private property ownership because now they're hybrid because they want you to open a business there, right? But the problem is that under Nazism, you can start a business and own a business, but the moment the government wants to come in and take your business from you for the war effort, they can do that, and that's exactly what China's doing. So, what does that have anything to do with this? The Dayton shooter. Here is some tweet from Flowers. Retweet Flowers of Adam Suck he retweeted, "R.I.P. Andy. No, he got hit with a milk and his entire brain prolapsed out of his asshole, killing him. Rest in power." Okay. All right. I think Andy knows awesome. Here's a tweet from Andy No. The FBI launched an investigation into violent ideologies of the Dayton shooter. Explored before his deadly attack. His social media footprint shows someone deeply supportive of violent Antifa accounts, causes, and individuals. My latest NY post. So you can, here's another article from New York Post. I'm not going to read it. I think we've seen enough. We know Cotter Betts is an Antifa. There's no question about that. So what else on that? Oh, shoot. That was not what I wanted to see. Sorry. Sorry, I had one I wanted to lead off with. Here, I apologize. West. I guess we're gonna have to go with. Sorry, was not expecting that. I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties today. I'm just gonna have to go back up to it and read it from the top. I usually have them in order, ready to read, but I'm backed up. In this next article from Newsweek, Jake Paul owes Uncle Sam more than $2 million in unpaid federal taxes. His home was raided by FBI agents on Wednesday. So we thought originally that Jake Paul was his house was raided because of his involvement in the BLM Antifa Nazi Democrat race riots. But turns out this wasn't the case. It was the $2 million because that's a lot of money. Probably shouldn't scam Uncle Sam. Not really into it. Was this what I was supposed to do? I think this was that. Here's our next fake news article from the Daily Mail. Trump storms out of press conference after reporter presses him on false claim. Trump was taking questions from the press in New Jersey after signing 4 executive orders on Saturday, where CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reed pressed him. So that's what they put there. But then you go read the title. It says Trump walks out of his COVID relief. We have to look at the title up here. It also, too, says Trump storms out, too. Right there. You can see it. It says Trump abruptly left after signing ceremony of executive orders on Saturday. Reporter pressed him on his false claim that he signed Veterans Choice Act. The act was signed in 2014. But Trump signed an expansion to it in 2018. And so the expansion was called, what was it called? Look, so Trump is a businessman. So he did put his name on something related to that bill that gave it to more people. This definitely, here is the video of him, quote unquote, storming out.
Against you on this. Why not just work with Congress on this deal?
Well, I'm not saying they're not going to come back and negotiate. They might very well come back and negotiate.
You're signing an executive order today, and Americans want to know when they're going to see this relief.
Very soon. They're going to see it very soon. Look, there it is, right there. Excuse me. There it is, right there. Go ahead.
Mr. President, though, this is expected to be tied up in the court, so this relief is either going to be delayed or blocked
I don't think
indefinitely.
so. I think this is going to go very rapidly through the courts. This will go very. If we get sued, maybe we won't get sued. If we get sued, it's somebody that doesn't want people to get money, okay? And that's not going to be a very popular thing.
Go around Congress. Are you trying to set a new precedent that the president can go around Congress and decide how much
You ever hear
is
the
collected
word
and spent?
obstruction? They've obstructed. Congress has obstructed. The Democrats have obstructed people from getting desperately needed money. Go ahead, please, right here.
President,
No,
why do you
no,
keep
you're
saying
finished.
that
Go
you
ahead,
passed
please.
veterans' choice?
Please.
You passed veterans' choice. It was passed in
Okay,
2014.
excuse me. Go ahead,
But
please.
it was a false statement, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Here's the storms out. I'm not sure exactly where they got the whole stormed out thing. If you ask me, it definitely sounded like he was asked a question and he ended it. I would not. I couldn't tell you from the context whether or not that was an abrupt end. Was it about to end anyways? This is the problem with the fake news. They're horrible about taking things out of context and spinning them. They want to make a sensational headline. They need you to click on the clickbait so that you will watch the ads. If you don't do that, they're not going to make any money. And because there's such a low chance that you're going to actually watch the ad and then they get the ad money, they have to put out so much fake news that we are currently swimming up to our eyeballs in fake news. This next fake news article, well, I don't know if you call it an article. It's from Hacker News. After the city of LA released 31% of its prison population, crime did not spike. And so go and look at it, and it's some thing. It's probably from a hacker. My computer's probably getting hacked right now. This looks like a pretty sketchy web domain, right? Right. So, is it real? Let's see. Sorry, messing up my don't reveal. Sorry. I'm fucking this up. Revealing all my stuff. Here it is. All right. June 10th. Homicides in Los Angeles in that week increased 250%. So first off, Los Angeles is a city. They might have jails, but they don't have any prisons. So already this claim is fake. I should not have clicked on the image. Probably getting hacked right now. I'm going to reformat my computer. I'm going to wipe all of my phones and my tablets. You should probably get used to that. Probably shouldn't have any sort of things you're logging into on your tablet that you don't care if they're hacked. Don't check your email on your tablet. Don't use your Google address for your primary email. Use that for like YouTube and all your other Google stuff, but use another email address that you never log in on Wi-Fi because, well, those people can do some nasty damage. There's a good chance the hackers are from Russia or China. So don't think that just because they're a hacker, they're like some cool person. They're probably some super sketchy person from China working for the Chinese Nazi Party. This next article from the Times of Israel. Iran accidentally sinks its mock U.S. aircraft carrier, blocking key waterway. Satellite imagery published by Forbes shows that the ship capsized at 90 degrees in the middle of a strategic passageway that Tehran needs to clear to transport other vessels. So they're usually pretty embarrassing, you know. Surprised they didn't go out on the battlefield and shoot themselves. These people have a tendency of doing things like that. They're not so good on the battlefield. They rigged up this. What did they do? They took like some old retired ship and then made it look like an aircraft carrier. They were trying to like sink it, and then I think what exactly happened? Capsized, run it aground. If you donate to the show, it'll pay for faster internet. and it was listing in carrier was listing. I don't know what that means. Listing. So firing missiles. The target is actually an elaborate target barge, not intended to sink. It's meant to be reusable and had been symbolic and already destroyed twice. The replica carrier is located near the harbor entrance to Bandar Abbas, a main approach channel, the Straits of Hormuz, Forbes said. The report said that the water there is only 45 feet deep, which will make it almost impossible for the ship to sink entirely. As a result, Iranian forces will be tasked with recovering the carrier in order to prevent it from causing damage to other ships of the regime trying to sail through the area. If anybody knows what this term listing at the carrier listing at roughly 90 degrees, I don't know what that is. If you could comment, issue ticket 69 on GitHub, realsimplenews.net/issue69 will get you there. Got to click on the link right now because the websites do have a fact-checking service coming out called WikiSpy. New badass AI technology coming out from Captain Kabuki. Next article from Daily Mail. Republicans slam Team Vogue for Marxist propaganda. Republican politician Dan Crenshaw, who is the man, Ted Cruz, and Burgess Owens joined multiple social media users in blasting the high-end fashion Bible over the article in its July edition. What did they say? Said Teen Vogue published an op-ed in its July edition addressing the mounting eviction crisis, calling for an end to private property rights. Woo! Damn! Woo! They must be getting paid from China. Look, this cultural Marxism shit from China is no joke, dude. They are seriously engaging in cultural Marxism all around the United States. They have been censoring Hollywood movies because Hollywood is making billions of dollars per year over there in China. So the Chinese Nazi Party is subsidizing cultural Marxism coming to a theater near you where you are now paying money to have our culture destroyed so that you can have some bullshit remake of a formerly good story with a minority or a woman. And then you have now sucked the soul out of it. And as you can see from the amount of money that they make at the box office, they're a big belly flop. The movies suck. They're horrible. Nobody wants to watch them. They're pathetic. They're about as pathetic as Chinese martial arts. Almost as pathetic as the dictator Winnie the Pooh. But, I mean, I know Winnie the Pooh is, a little bit pretty out of shape. But, not quite that bad. Texas Congressman Crenshaw blasted the article as Marxist propaganda. Oh, while we're working to abolish the police, we must also work to dismantle what the police were put here to protect, which is property, it reads. You see, this is what I got a problem. I live in Oregon. In Oregon, there is 1.9% black people here. Joe Biden's platform, or shall I say Mr. Magoo's platform, is that he wants to give $15,000 loans to minorities who are first-time home buyers. He wants to give minorities business loans. He wants to make the Federal Reserve talk about race. Yes, you heard that right. Mr. Magoo wants the Federal Reserve to talk about race. And me living in Oregon, where there's 1.9% black people, where we've had to experience, I think, like 67 days of massive riots here, where people are targeting me. I have to now. I've had a large percentage of my former friends who I've never had any bad blood with. We've always had good times going to badass electronic dance parties in Eugene, Oregon. I even threw some myself. One had over 2,000 people. And this is causing people who've been lifelong friends the lefties will start hating the people on the right because they've been radicalized, because they're getting fed all this Marxist propaganda through Facebook, social media, the leftist universities, the leftists who've taken over the workplace, the leftist scientists who are seeing all of the scientific data through a Democrat lens, which makes all of their science completely bunk. You can't trust a single word that comes out of their mouth now, because it's probably going to be skewed. It's not going to actually be reality. It's just going to be a bunch of propaganda that caused them to be so upset that they want to kill Trump supporters. And they don't understand. Like, this is, I forgot to bring this up. I had the article somewhere. I'm supposed to bring this up about who was the mass shooter? I forget the mass shooter's name. Sorry, gotta look it up because sadly can't remember it off the top of my head. It's taking forever. Sorry, Connor Betts. That guy, he was blasting techno music when he. Oh wait, no, hold on, no, there was a different person. Shit. I don't remember what I was saying. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah. The reason why Connor Betts killed those people. Or no, hold on. I'm thinking about the guy who shot up the Aurora Theater. That guy, also to Connor Betts, but James Holmes. That was the other article, actually, that I had closed out because I took him off. The reason why he shot up that theater was because he was suspected as being Black Bloc. I looked into it, turned out to be bunk. It was just people putting together things about Batman, the movie, and didn't have any grounding in reality. But he committed that shooting specifically because he wanted to kill people. He had problems in school. He dropped out, and then he committed that mass shooting. Same thing with this Dayton, Ohio person, Connor Betts. He hated people. He wanted to kill fascists, so he then went and killed people. And so this is the common motivation, is that the person wants to kill people. This is why leftists are acting just like Nazis and communists who killed over 100 million people, because they hate Trump supporters enough that they want to kill them. What does this have to do with this? And so they're engaging in cultural Marxism. So they want to take out everything that is the white man's history. First off, okay, they say a lot of black African Americans say whiteness is inferior to blackness because it lacks culture, which is funny because 92% of black people vote for Democrats, Most of them live in big cities, all in the United States. So if anybody's lacking culture, it would probably be not be the white man. The white man's culture was appropriated by the rest of the world and became mainstream. That's quite a bit different than lacking culture. But they want to take out our statues. They want to take out Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, even Abraham Lincoln for some reason. I don't know why, but they want to take out anything related to a white man had power. And the reason why is because the Democrats are finding that they can get people to vote for them if they go with this. They all are trying to rise up the pyramid to the top of the ivory tower. And they do that the way that they do that is through virtue signaling, through posting tweets on Twitter that show their audience that they are the white knight. They're the virtuous one. They are Xena, social justice warrior. And if you mess with her, she will send her beta male attack dogs with a legion of white knights to come and cancel you. And they're doing this because they feel like they can come up in the workplace. The white feminists which is a racist form of feminism, where they put white women's issues above everybody else's. They're out there protesting with the Marxist Black Lives Matter Antifa Nazis because it's an equality movement and they want to get more money. So they'll tell you, I'm out here marching for BLM, but it's a lie. You actually call them out, tell them, no, you're living in a city where there's no police, where there's hardly any police shootings. You're a privileged white woman. You're not out here Look, the laws that they're protesting against that are causing the police brutality are in these large cities that are almost all run by Democrats. They're blaming the Republicans, saying it's that Donald Trump is the most evil person in the world. He's a fascist because he said, grab her by the pussy, and he wants to build the wall. And they've been radicalized into thinking that if you don't support illegal immigration, that you are a racist, and they're getting fed this propaganda from the Chinese Nazi Party, who is notorious for using cultural Marxism to wipe out people's culture and to use the poor people to kill the 1% in order to take control over countries. They learned it from Stalin, the monster who is one of the biggest genocidal maniacs. Hitler wasn't shit compared to Stalin. Stalin was the bigger predator by far. The Bolsheviks were much more killer than the Nazis, who were just more technologically sophisticated. So they're getting fed this propaganda through the universities where the Chinese foreign exchange students go, where they have grad students who one story I covered recently on Real Simple News was of a Chinese grad student who was convicted of espionage, working on LinkedIn in order to get information from defense contractors. This also happens on Wikipedia. I was the person who blew the whistle on Wikipedia, and they're basically, here's the scoop on how they get their espionage data. They do recon on Wikipedia, and if they want to get recon on someone, what they will do is they will create a wiki page for that person that they want to get recon on, and they get recon on most of our politicians through Wikipedia, and they get us to constantly update it. We're kind of unwitting pawns in that effort, and they get you to just work as a agent of a foreign power without your knowledge right there on Wikipedia. They use Chinese foreign exchange grad students. All these grad students coming out of all these foreign exchange students coming from China are children of the Chinese Nazi Party. They're what are called second generation rich, so they've never had to work in their life. Some of them are geniuses from the countryside, but remember, most of the people are from the countryside. They're not going to send over someone to another country who is not sold on the Chinese Nazi Party line. They're there to control China's social media image, to commit espionage, to take our secrets, to harvest everything that they can and take it back to China for the usage of the National Socialist government there. That's the goal. That's what they do. They got busted on LinkedIn. It was the lead story on one of the Real Simple News episodes. You really should check it out. It's a interesting story. And they're in bed with all of these big magazines because they want to sell in China. And so a lot of these big organizations are owned by other organizations. And if they're not doing business directly with the media organization, they are probably doing it with one of the other organizations that they work with. So we have to root out, when they say drain the swamp, like, we got to get China out, bro. Like, China is absolutely horrible what China is doing. I'm sorry. This is not supposed to be like this. I hate that. Donate to the show so that we can get better equipment. In this next news article from Daily Mail, Ghislaine Maxwell tried to recruit Paris Hilton for Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell's former friend Christopher Mason said she stopped in her tracks and said, "Oh my God," when she saw Paris Hilton at a party. He did not give a date or the place for the encounter. So, as you can see, not all of the women that Jeffrey Epstein was sexually attracted to were actually under the age of 18. The truth about Jeffrey Epstein was that he was just a pervert, a horn dog, as we like to say, and he would fuck anything that moved. And most of the women were working for a modeling agency. It was not a sex trafficking ring. They were models who would actually give massages and occasional hand jobs and let the dudes jerk off while they're naked. Not exactly like prostitution. Kind of close. More like a bunch of billionaires having sex with all of the women that they could find. In this next article from New York Post, angry Canadians are going after illegal U.S. visitors among the COVID pandemic. You heard that right. They want to build the wall to keep those filthy, stinking Americans out from bringing COVID because they're disease infested. Now they think we're far right because of Donald Trump, even though that's a bunch of horseshit nonsense. Angry Canadians are intimidating and reporting Americans they suspect may have crossed the border illegally to escape the coronavirus crisis in the United States. According to a report, residents of the country, known under normal circumstances for being exceedingly friendly, have taken to tracking and damaging the property of people with U.S. licensed ... U.S. licensed what? Plates. According to New York Times, quote, the Canadians are actually doing damage to vehicles with U.S. plates on them, one source said to the paper. In fact, frequent reports of vigilante-style Yankee hunting in the land of maple syrup and hockey, where the coronavirus death rate is roughly half that of the United States, prompted warnings from officials in Canada, according to the paper. Quote, with respect to those who have offshore plates and are feeling harassed, I would suggest perhaps public transit. I would suggest that they get their plates changed. I would suggest they ride bikes. And quote, the Premier of British Columbia, John Horgan, said at a recent press conference. So I just want to make note that this generally does not happen in America. In fact, we're quite a bit better than that. We are not pussies about COVID. We're not. This is why most people are not really, most of the young people are not really digging, they're not abiding by the lockdown mandates. Do we have lockdown mandates? Social distancing guidelines. That's what I meant to say. And that's because young people not really going to be having to deal with COVID. If you look at what's actually going on with COVID, about half of the people that die from COVID are over the average age where people die. So to say that that's part of the COVID death. So if you're going to say what the part of the COVID death rate is, I mean, there's different ways to look at this. You can look at it as whether or not you prevented people from getting infected by it. But then, you would, but if you looked at that number, you got to look at the vaccines. Like do you have vaccines? Or are you going to get a vaccine? Because everybody's going to get it. It's about when you're going to get it. If you're young, you really just don't have anything to worry about. Some people do. But you also, too, can get struck by lightning. I don't really see you being worried about that one too much. But let's move on. Hey, I had another one that was kind of like that about COVID. Where was it? You're in the next Daily Mail article. It says lockdown, quote, killed 2 people for every 3 that died of coronavirus. It's thought that as many as 16,000 people died because they didn't get medical care between March 23rd and May 1st. The COVID lockdowns in the UK. And then we have, after that, what I wanted to show you first, but didn't happen that way. Where's it at? Come on. Damn it. Sorry. I've got 3 shows worth of stories up here, and it's hard to search through. When I have that many up here, I can't see stuff. What are they doing? Don't I have the article up here? I don't, man. Here, look. This next article from the Daily Telegraph. This was from today. It says Europe stunned by American coronavirus response after U.S. approaches 5 million infections. U.S. states' failure to contain the spread of the coronavirus has been met with astonishment by idiots who are very asinine in Europe. Apparently, they can't do basic math here in Europe. The United States has done 6 times more tests than any other country out there. So if it looks like we have more cases of coronavirus, the reason for that is because we're testing way more people. And the reliability of these COVID tests is very questionable. They're not really actually very good indicators. So chances are you're actually seeing a very large number of false positives. It says the United States' failure to contain the spread of coronavirus, which is the common cold, because apparently they know so little about SARS-CoV-2. They're still calling it just coronavirus. The fact that coronavirus does not kill young children, there's of the first 103,339 deaths, only 26 were under the age of 15. So it's very rare that children die. So because of this, the flu is more likely to kill somebody who's young than somebody who's old, because somebody who's old has had the flu, different kinds of the flu, so their body is going to be able to fight it. It's the opposite with SARS-CoV-2. Young people are largely unaffected. Then the older generations have secure acute respiratory. The virus can kill your body. Well, hold on. It's not a DNA virus. There's two ways an RNA virus can kill you. Is it can your white blood cells will not detect it, and then it will replicate until it has can't replicate anymore, and you die. And then there's the autoimmune response, and this is where the leukocytes will come, and they're looking for chemical signatures in the blood, and they get them from the wrong cells, and they attack the wrong cells. Lupus is an example of an autoimmune disease. It's very harsh. Here, wait a second. Getting hot as a mug up in here. So they're saying that we are a hotbed of COVID. It's because the news today is fake. This next article from, where's it from? Agence France Presse. Oh no, it's from India Today via MSN. Passes Europe to become region with the most coronavirus deaths. Latin America and Caribbean surpassed Europe on Friday to become the region hardest hit with coronavirus deaths, as India passed the milestone of the 2 million infections. The world's most affected region has reported 213, 120 fatalities, 460 more than Europe. The America's at about 150,000. We have about 320 million people. What's the population of Europe? $700. They're like twice the size as us. So what's the stats? Incidences of COVID deaths, and these are per 100,000. So these numbers are going to take out the population differences. So we look at the number of deaths per capita. Here's now we can see Belgium's the worst, followed by the United Kingdom, followed by Spain, Italy, Sweden, France, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Portugal, Romania, Germany, Denmark, Austria, Hungary, Finland, Bulgaria. So where is the U.S.? Was this the same one? That's the same one. This is not per 100,000. Damn you. Do they have a per 100,000? Doesn't tell you. So this can show you the U.S. is not a hotbed for COVID. They're talking about us having a problem spreading. But the thing is the entire country's not like that. This is the thing. These journalists are half-brained. They're not very smart. They don't know like statistics. I went to engineering school, I run an engineering business. So here's the reported deaths of coronavirus. And so what we see is these spikes. And so what we see these spikes, that's when a city is having a outbreak. That's why it's spiking like that. There are a bunch of Gaussian curves. So here's New York. It was the highest one on the list. And you can see the coronavirus outbreak is over. So the death count might have been high. Their infection count might have been high, but it's over. And then you go look at New Jersey. New Jersey's over. Michigan's over. Looks like a Gaussian curve. Massachusetts, it's over. Louisiana, it's not over. There's a second wave in Louisiana. This is not, definitely a second wave in Louisiana. Right here. That definitely going up. Definitely going up. See, these, like California, very liberal state, lefty state, run by very horrible, corrupt politicians. They locked down. They tried to prevent the spread of COVID. This is what happened when you try to stop a freight train going through. Does nothing. Pennsylvania, the outbreak's over. Illinois, outbreak's over. Florida, the outbreak is past the peak. Texas, don't looks like it's past the peak. Washington never really had a problem. Georgia looks like it's going to have a problem again. So Maryland, not having a problem. Ohio, never really had a problem. Indiana, never really had a problem. So we can see now, after reviewing the stats, that the Europeans are also too drowning in fake news. It's easy. It's nice, easy points to just lash out at Donald Trump and at the Americans to make them sound horrible, to make yourself sound better. But the reality of the situation is that other countries have very bad mortality rates. So everybody's going to get SARS-CoV-2 at some point in your life. If you're old, it's probably going to kill you. I've already had it once. Not really worried about it. It was only deadly because I had never had it. And once I have it, if I have 4 or 5 different types of COVID, then it's going to be more like the other coronaviruses, the common cold. And then nobody's going to care at all. This next article from the New York Post, Trump's campaign credits rebooted nightly briefings for surge in the polls. President Trump's re-election team says he rebooted nightly coronavirus briefings are the new campaign trail stump speech, crediting them with the recent surge in his polls numbers. We know every time the president is able to speak directly to the American people, it's a needle mover. One senior campaign told the officials, because people just hate Donald Trump because of stuff that they read in the media by snake ivory tower liberal scum who will tell you anything you want to hear to get you to like on the post, watch the ad, buy the product, and vote for them. And when you actually hear Donald Trump, he actually is totally not this demon. He's absolutely not far right. He's not racist. He's not sexist. He's not a xenophobe. He's a normal American, and people support him because he speaks for them. Everybody thought he was crazy when he first came out with his platform of Build the Wall. But as you can see, he is very good at building, and he knew the correct thing to build because he is a CEO and he knows the best way to make money on buildings. And so he knew, hey, there's all kinds of stuff with this illegal immigration because he builds buildings and he talks to the people who build the buildings. And when he talks to these people, they tell him things. Like people are saying it's racist to kick out the Latinos, which is probably because China has been trying to convince us to not enforce our immigration policy so that they can wipe our culture out. Because if we speak a different language, that's a different culture. That's not the white man's language. Well, hold on. It came from the white man, but it's got taken over by the Latinos. Hold on. Latino means that you move to the U.S. They're South Americans. They come from different countries. They actually want you to call them by the country they come from. If they're from Brazil, call them a Brazilian. If they're from Mexico, call them a Mexican. If they are in the United States, you call them a Latino. But the Latinos also, too, want to build the wall because, as it turns out, when you have a lot of illegal immigrants, 56% of them are from Mexico. 4 in 5 border jumpers get through. There's 20 illegal immigrants for every homeless person on the street. Almost 11 of them are from Mexico. When you bring in all these people, it depresses our wages, and the wages of the Latinos makes them a permanent underclass. So if you want to give Latinos an equal chance, you have to cut off the Mexicans that are sneaking in, that are causing rapid demographic changes in our country. And they say you can't do anything to stop that because it's far right. But in reality, that's never been far right. Far right means like authoritarian, steep social hierarchy. So what would you call it if you have a permanent underclass of people? That's called a steep social hierarchy. To not enforce the borders is a far right policy because it creates a permanent underclass of people that creates a steep social hierarchy, which is by definition far right. But the Democrats want to pack in as many people as they can because supposedly they care about the environment and global warming or something. And they don't care that it's rapidly changing the demographics of the United States. This, to them, they think you're a racist white person. You're not allowed to care about that. You can't say anything about can't say anything about this. You're not allowed to. If you say anything about this, you will be canceled. They will come for you. This is the birth rates of white people, Latinos. And you can see, here's births per woman. You got to have 2.1 kids to reproduce yourself. If you're under 2, it means you're beta. That you're going down, your genes not getting propagated. You have beta genes. Not necessarily because you are a low quality person, but because you're not propagating your genes through the gene pool. Which is what beta means. People are confused. They think an alpha male is like some like toxic masculinity guy. No, an alpha male is a guy who gets hella pussy. An alpha male does not need to front like they're good with women. Everybody knows they're good with women. That's the thing about an alpha male. And it has nothing to do with whether or not you're strong. It has everything to do with whether or not you are not a pushover and women want to sleep with you. So if you don't have 2.1 kids, you are what is called a beta male. And so the white people, obviously, we have turned into beta males. And then here we have the minority growth and also two womb. Wow. How does this work? Hold on. There's a negative over here. This is a little bit. So there's a up to. Is this the growth? So the Asians are at 1.0. Hold on. Where is this at? This was at like 1 point. This is supposed to be 1.6. Okay, so this one right here is like about 1.6. This white line, and then so this is cut off for the 1.6, 0.5. This is okay. So here is the minority growth. It's going down here. It's actually a little bit over replacement up here. So this is how much from here? 1.5, right? 1.6. So I'm not sure. anybody wants to comment on issue 69 on GitHub as to why there is a negative on there. I'm a little bit annual growth of the populations, and then this is in so we can see they're going downhill. That's not the birth rate, annual growth rate. But we can see the population is all dependent on our immigration policy. If there's no immigration, our population goes down. That includes Latinos. And so their birth rate's about 1.96. Ours is about 1.6. Everybody's going downhill. And then the only reason why we're growing is because the Democrats want to bring in more immigrants. And this is bad for you because, well, if your genes are going to not be propagating through the gene pool, and then they just want to replace you with foreign people, we kind of got issues with that. We would rather instead export Americans. We would rather take over Mexico. If we can just take over Mexico without having a war, we would totally do that. In fact, let's do that. In fact, let's totally cuck them. Just start swarming over, because they've been swarming over indiscriminately. There's like 30% of federal drug traffickers are illegal immigrants, and they're swarming through the border, and they don't give a fuck whether or not we lose control of our country, Americans, not just white people. We're talking about Latino Americans, talking about Asian Americans who have a birth rate of only children. They don't care about us. So I say we just start fucking like rabbits, get all the trashy white chicks, have them start pumping out babies like a baby factory, and just go take over Mexico and just cuck them. In this next article from Hacker News, geometric folding algorithms, linkages, origami, and polyhedra. This is a open courseware course from MIT. It's a free class that you could take. This is a curved crease structure created for the opening of the National Museum of Mathematics. Demonstrates the intersections of origami design and mathematics. That is the heart of this course. And if you take this course, focuses on algorithms for analyzing and designing geometric foldings. Topics include reconfiguration of foldable structures, linkages made from one-dimensional rods connected by hinges, folding two-dimensional paper origami, and unfolding, folding three-dimensional polyhedra. Application to architecture, robotics, manufacturing, and biology are also covered in this course, which is very cool. You should go and bookmark that class. Way cool. I'm going to give that the 2 thumbs up on super cool. This next article from Daily Mail says inmate freed due to coronavirus shoots his rape accuser dead. Alexandria police say Ibrahim E. Bauchi, 33, fatally gunned down Carla Dominguez outside of her apartment in the early morning of July 29th. So obviously, we shouldn't be letting people out of jail early. If the court thinks they should be in jail because they're a danger to society, we should probably leave them in jail. We should not leave this up to politics. We have a system of laws. We are a country of laws. We would be living under tyranny if it was not for the common law legal system. So maybe we should stop interjecting our personal politics into about COVID into law, and we should just follow the law. And if you don't like the law the way it is, well, then we should probably replace the law. But the thing is when you start like making it normal to not follow the law, you end up with authoritarianism, lots of crimes. In this next article from Hacker News, Silicon Valley's vast data collection should worry you more than TikTok's. Bullshit. Probably, so this is from some unknown source. I have no idea what it is. Probably getting hacked by a hacker right now. This is why you should watch Real Simple News, so that they'll hack my machine that doesn't matter. And what do they say? NewsGuard says they're legit. So it says practically everything TikTok critics and China hawks say about the country's data collection applies to the United States and its tech firms too. We should be finding ways to protect privacy and free speech from governments and corporations everywhere, including our own. So let me get this straight. So we're a democracy. We don't have a dictator. Our president could whoop the dictator of China's ass. Most of Americans could whoop Chinese ass. Chinese martial artists gets their ass whooped by our MMA fighters, who are vastly superior to their weak martial arts. No offense to anybody who likes martial arts. It is a beautiful art form, but you know the truth of the matter is they get their ass kicked. So China is run by the Chinese quote-unquote Communist Party. They're a Nazi hierarchy. Definitely 100% National Socialist hierarchy. You cannot have private ownership in communism. Communism, by definition, means community ownership. It means flattest hierarchy you can get. So you can't have really poor people and really rich people. It's not communism. So when the Chinese Nazi Party has access to your location, they can follow you around, they can have access to your contact list, your pictures, they can use you as an espionage tool. So we are engaging in a trade war with them. They hack into our businesses. They commit espionage. They are trying to subvert our democracy. They're trying to use cultural Marxism to wipe out our heritage, our historical monuments, our statues, our history books. They're trying to utilize anti-racism to attack the white man. They're trying to use the immigration policies in order to prevent us from enforcing our immigration policies. I have actually covered this on Real Simple News. The Chinese government are, in fact, actually putting out propaganda trying to get us to not enforce our immigration policies. And this is a form of cultural Marxism. Their hopes is to replace us with Spanish-speaking people. You're not allowed to talk about it because they rigged the propaganda through the Great Replacement article on Wikipedia, which is how I discovered all of this stuff. I called it out as boogeyman propaganda and I was banned from Wikipedia. And then I discovered the person who had banned me did not sleep. They were on Wikipedia 24 hours a day, editing things. They were far leftist. They had edited the Killing of Floyd page on Wikipedia to say that Officer Chauvin had his knee on Floyd's neck and his back at the same time, killing him. Fake news. George Floyd had 11 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl in his system. 0.75 nanograms per milliliter is a lethal dose. Do the math. That's 14 lethal doses of fentanyl in George Floyd. Died of a heart attack in the ambulance. You can go on YouTube, type in Floyd New York Times, watch the video that pops up. Go to 7 minutes into the video and you will see that George Floyd indeed, they put him in the ambulance after checking his pulse. He died of a heart attack in the ambulance. So it's impossible Officer Chauvin could have killed him. But they want you to believe that that's what it is because it's causing people to riot. When you cause people to riot, it causes cultural Marxism, causes rioters to develop networks that turn into terrorist networks. They use the drug networks to deliver biological or chemical weapons to you in the form of fentanyl, the drug that George Floyd overdosed on, had 14 lethal doses in his blood. If you don't believe me on that one here, I've been arguing with people on Facebook. They don't want to actually research the information. They think, oh, no, they did a second autopsy and they found out it was strangulation. So for the second autopsy, the family paid for it because they wanted to sue the cops, and they hired a 85-year-old quack doc from HBO who does conspiracy theory videos because they're trying to make a video out of it for HBO. And he said that Floyd was strangled, but that the evidence went away because after Chauvin put his neck on, the evidence was only there for 30 seconds. That was what the quack doc said. But then you can go through, and then they say that Floyd died from a heart attack complicated by police officer subdual and restraint, and but they don't say anything about the fentanyl. But if you look at the toxicology report, you can see down here, you can see there's a fentanyl 11 nanograms, norfentanyl 5.6 nanograms, 4 AMPP. I don't know what that is. Various bunch of THC, cotinine. I don't know what that is. Caffeine and caffeine, which could have caused a heart attack. So that's 14 lethal doses of fentanyl. I didn't look up the lethal dose of meth, but nobody's been saying anything about lethal dose of meth. So Floyd definitely died from a drug overdose. So China's using the information that they're gathering. Let me go back to the article. The information that these people are gathering off TikTok is definitely a threat. It's not a joke. This article is fake news. It's not the same when Silicon... Okay, so there's possibilities that the Chinese government could purchase the information, maybe using a tool to break the anonymizing thing that they say they're doing to make you anonymous in the data they're collecting. But what they're doing, they are committing corporate espionage. They're stealing our intellectual property. So if you send a message to someone else on TikTok and it contains intellectual property, they can steal that. They can monitor they can track your behavior of politicians, of businesses, of... I'm trying to think what kind of information they get from young people. They like to get, the Chinese grad student who was convicted of espionage, he was getting information from defense contractors through LinkedIn. And he would just offer them a job, some sort of gig, writing about something, analysis for a think tank. And they would spill the beans because they want to get the job and they want to tell you about all the stuff they did. TikTok is also a method for Chinese to brainwash people because what they can do is they can change the story. So they put news stories to appear in TikTok videos. And what they can do is if you take news stories and you take tiny clips of them and you put them out of context, you can edit them to be a different story. What you do is you change the get somebody to talk about a specific issue, then you share that video. Then you can put other news videos, paid promotions, that when you put these stories together in the news feed, it feeds you a different story narrative. It's a lot like taking clips in a Hollywood movie and filming. It's like you had a Hollywood movie and then you took a bunch of clips and then you edited them together and made a different movie out of it. That's what's basically they're doing. And they can feed this to you straight at your house. They can even make money, massive amounts of money, while brainwashing you. They're doing this to your kids. They're also collecting data on children who are under the age of 18 and the Chinese Nazi Party. This breaks a lot of laws. This is not legal in any way, shape, or form. They can't be doing that. So this article is fake news. In this next Daily Mail article, off-duty cop is fatally shot after opening fire on armed robbers who stormed city bus in Mexico. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm yawning. It's past my bedtime. But we do have more news stories to read. I'm going to restart this one because I got to chop the videos up. Off-duty. Oh, hold on. Sorry. In this next article from the Daily Mail, off-duty cop is fatally shot after opening fire on armed robbers who stormed a city bus in Mexico. The robbers stormed a bus in Valle del Calco? Solidaridad? State of Mexico on June 24th, and footage of the incident was leaked on Friday. If you don't want to watch this, close your eyes. What is this? Shootout with two hero cop. I can show too much. So, yep. Got to keep that monetization going. Donate to the show because, you know, I'm shadow banned. Not going to get monetization. I'm doing all this for free. I've worked my ass off. Been working all day to bring you this show. Dealing with cheap gear that doesn't work right. In this next article from the Daily Mail, Louisiana man given life for selling $30 worth of marijuana to an undercover cop was released after 9 years. Derek Harris, a veteran of the Gulf War, was handed the life sentence in June 2012 after he sold 0.69 grams of marijuana to an undercover policeman on Thursday. A judge ruled that he had to be released. That is insane. Less than a gram? Like, I'm in Oregon, dude. It's legal to smoke weed here. I bought this at the store down the street from this cute little chick who you would swear is a lefty, but she's totally not a lefty. Wow. That was just 9 years ago, huh? 2010, that's when I started engineering school. Well, 2009, 2010. That was my first year in engineering school. Took a long time to get me to work up into math that high. Wow, that was just recently. So where was this? Wow, war veteran too. And this was in Louisiana, the state that had the Confederate flag on their flag, which, okay, given the fact that the Confederate flag was on the flag of Louisiana, how can it be a hate symbol? Right? Well, it's because the Anti-Defamation League is totally corrupt. You can't listen to anything that the Jewish people are saying anymore about anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism, the root of anti-Semitism, is blame of other people for stuff that they did not do. When you say the Jews control the world, you are saying that you are blaming Jews for this group of evil people, abstract people that quote unquote control the world. It's totally not true. There's a lot of different power players. There are various religions. Jews are in there because they are strong and smart, wonderful people. And they will, if there's ever a group gathering of the world's best and brightest, you can bet your bottom dollar the Israelis will be showing up, and they will have cool stuff to show you. This is why I like these people. But people like to blame them, saying that they did these certain things, and then the whole Nazism, or this the purebred thing wasn't really inherently a part of Nazism. That was where they thought Jews were like inferior because they weren't purebreds. I think what it was they were trying to compete, and you either proved you were not inferior or not. I think they've definitely proven that they are a not inferior people by any way, shape, or form. But people like to blame the ADL. Just has gone fruitcake with what they're calling is hate speech. It's absolutely fruitcake. I think that they're doing a very, very disservice to the Jewish people, because once you start making the pile of the far right very large and putting people in it that are normal people, what you end up with is a very large group of far right people who are very angry at you. This is not what you want. But by all definitions, the Israelis are a two-state solution. This can be considered far right if you look at it. The Democrats do view that as far right. What does this have to do about this? The ADL is the one who's been pushing a lot of this Confederate flag as a hate symbol. It's not actually true. It's actually the battle flag of Robert E. Lee, which was, he was not everybody was racist back then, but he was not one of the horribly racist people. He was a general who fought for his country, and he was one of their best. And whereas you could say that wasn't our country, he fought against us. A lot of other people would also say, then you would have to then say everybody who fought in the Civil War against us were not Americans, in which case it would not be a civil war. So you're wrong. But when the Israelis are definitely more of a conservative crowd, they match check a lot of the conservative things, except for the leftist Jewish people who will pander to the ADL and the people who would buy into what they think is hate symbols. And this, I think this perpetuates anti-Semitism. When you hassle people over, label them as racist, toxic, try to prevent them from getting jobs, it makes them hate you. You just keep putting people in the far right pile, expanding the definition from it used to be that you wanted a dictator, you wanted a steep social hierarchy, to now it's anybody who's racist, anybody who doesn't like Muslims, anybody who wants to enforce the immigration policies, they're all far right. And so what you've done that point in time. Luckily, America is not far right. The conservatives in America support classical liberalism. That's what we're trying to conserve in America. That's what I am trying to conserve, is classical liberalism, the traditional family structure, because it is the vast majority of affluent people come from a 2-parent household. It's because you need to have both a mother and a father in order to be the strongest, smartest, and well-off that you can be. That does not mean that if you did not have those, that you faced adversary or adversity and you overcome it and that you're not a strong person. Of course not. No. The fact is, the people who had a mother and a father have a much higher GPAs and a lower crime rate and drug abuse rate. Facts are facts. What does this have to do with this? This is so Harris had a 1991 conviction for dealing cocaine plus robbery, burglary, and theft. So it wasn't just a possession. See, this is fake news. They say jailed for selling $30 worth of marijuana, but he had multiple other offenses. And was he on parole? Wasn't his first offense. I do think it's stupid, but it's not exactly what the title said. It was a multiple offense. That sucks. Let's legalize drugs. No reason for this to even happen. Is there anything else here that I want to cover? Here in this next article. In this next article from the New York Post, Florida teen accused of fatally shooting man in the head. A teenage boy accused of shooting a man in the head while on the phone with 911 dispatcher had charges against him upgraded to murder Friday after the victim died. Connor Michael Lewis, 16 of Sanford, was originally arrested on suspicion of attempted homicide in connection to the Wednesday shooting of the 18-year-old. Here is the I'm sorry, I don't, was it a man or a woman? Okay, so that's a boy. Whew. Who's Lewis called 911 around 8 p.m. Friday. Reports several women banging on his front door and window after a dispute between him and his girlfriend. He could be heard on the phone saying, "You're so scary. You're so scary." As the group was calling Lewis's name, a gunshot was heard. Police said, quote, "In the course of the interaction, one round of the gun was fired from inside of the home through the window of the front door, striking Artaveras Quaterman in the head," a police news release said. That's why I like just programming computers all day. The thought of something like this happening when you program computers all day is actually insane. This stuff actually happens. And they look like that. This next article, in this next article from the Times of Israel, UN set for showdown over U.S.-Iran arms deal embargo push. Security Council likely to reject Washington resolution calling to extend ban on controversial weapons sale indefinitely. Yeah, they're agitating right now. What were So they had the mock aircraft carrier they're trying to simulate. They were in Real Simple News yesterday for something. Let's look through here to see what they did real quick. They did something. Not going to find it. Can't remember what they were in Real Simple News yesterday for, or 2 days ago or something. They are constantly. Oh, we're still under sanctions. I think that's what they're probably. It's going to be a constant thing with them. They do regularly advocate for genocide against the Israelis, so I personally am in favor of keeping a boot on their neck. In fact, if you don't know, sorry, I was going to try to make a joke, but I kind of biffed it there. So people are allowed to sell them weapons? That's crazy. UN Security Council set next week to roundly reject the U.S. resolution to extend Iran arms embargo. Diplomats say setting up a lengthy showdown with repercussions for Iran nuclear deal. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced on Wednesday that United States would put forward its long-awaited resolution despite ardent opposition from Russia and China. But UN diplomats say opposition to the resolution's current form is so widespread that Washington's unlikely to even secure 9 votes required to force Moscow and Beijing to wield their vetoes. Quote, the resolution takes a maximalist position on Iran, one diplomat told AFP. Another said the draft, quote, goes beyond the current provisions, unquote, of the ban of controversial weapon sales to Iran that ends October 18th. It seems as though the European Union is being a shitbag. They're sold on this fake news. They don't like Donald Trump. The fake news media complex, or industrial complex, FNIC, they have been doing a tremendous amount of damage to the United States through all of the fake news about Donald Trump and the Democrat race riots with the BLM Antifa Nazis. And they, now we are facing consequences where they are regularly bashing us in the news. It's not just Donald Trump they bash. They use us as a scapegoat. And this is going to breed more anti-Semitism because scapegoating is the nature of anti-Semitism. If you weren't scapegoating, you wouldn't be blaming Jews. And so they would rather Iran get loaded up with weapons than us to continue. I'm not sure whether or not we should just back out and just like kind of call off on everything. I don't know. I think we have shown that we are loved when we bring our army places usually. Some people might want you to think that it's the other way around, but the reality is that the enemy wants you to think that because they are the enemy. But most people around the world do not look at white Americans as racist. They view them as very generous, smart, cool, interesting people. And then you got the people who are sold on this leftist bullshit, and they hate America. They hate the white man. They hate white privilege. They hate quote unquote misogynists. As I like to call them, the imaginary misogynistic pig boogeyman from MSNBC and the Southern Poverty Law Center that mistreats, beats, and rapes women, locks them up, doesn't let them vote, doesn't let them go to school, makes them wear burqas. And those people, that group of people, are rabid anti-Semites. They hate Israel. They think Republicans are racist and that the racist white people are holding down the minorities and the women, when in reality, the Democrats control the big cities. The rural states and areas are mostly Republican. And this closely mirrors the situation in World War II when the Nazis took over, where the socialist punk scum from the city came and took over the country. Same thing happened in Russia, in the USSR, when the socialist punk scum took over there, and in China. And so, given that the cities are run by Democrats, that most of these big tech companies are run by Democrats, and the Republicans are, the rural areas are poorer. Republican states, red states, they're poorer. It's impossible that the white man is controlling you. The reality of the situation is you're actually just in a big city where the rent is so damn high that everything is oppressive. You've ended at the bottom of the pyramid and your family stayed there. And if you don't get a really good education, you will continue to be there unless you move out of the city. And everybody is totally encouraging you to do that. We want all of the black Democrats to just walk away, say, hey, these Democrats are crazy, stupid white feminists. This ain't working for me. I don't want to be hated by people. I don't see this racism from these white people, but I do see the black people wanting to kill me. People who have never had an African American attempt to kill them have no idea how violent some of these people are. Not all of them, of course. Black conservatives are not at all like that. But the gangsters, the people who want to fight, who want to go to the club and fuck the white bitches, they are very violent and they will mess you up. You don't want to fuck with them. You're not hard. You're soft. They'll put a bullet in you. They'll gang beat you. They'll get savage on it. They'll do a backflip and a cartwheel while curb stomping you, while listening to hip hop music and breakdancing. They're that hardcore. They will fuck you up. You don't want to fuck with them. This is who the Democrats are trying to appease right now. And then now they want to give the Iranians weapons. This is crazy. Everything Democrats are doing is crazy. This next article from Hacker News: Facebook removes QAnon conspiracy group with 200,000 members. QAnon is a wide-ranging, this is from BBC. QAnon is a wide-ranging, unfounded conspiracy theory that says there's a deep state network of powerful government, business, and media figures waging a secret war against Donald Trump. A Facebook spokesman. That's not true. First off, they don't know what deep state means, right? Sounds deep state's like kooky, crazy shit at first, but the reality is that it's not. The federal government has most of their employees near Washington, D.C. These group of people get hired from the local community. There's a hierarchy. There's groups of people that this is like the staple job. Like back in the day when they used to have the wood mill and everybody went and got a job at the wood mill. When I was growing up, it was wildland firefighting. That's what I did. The staple job here in Oregon. because we got lots of trees. And so the deep state is referring to the people who live around the Washington, D.C. area who work for the federal government. So it's actually a group of people that we can physically pinpoint. We can say this is not an abstract group of people. It's in fact a concrete group of people that live near Washington, D.C., work for the federal government. So we have a list of the names of every single one of these people. They work for the federal government. We can get it. We can get a FOIA request. We can get all of the people that we can get security clearance for. We could show you, yes, indeed, these people do live in the area where they work at. I know this sounds crazy. And so when you do this and you have multiple generations of people working for the deep state, you end up with a deep state, right? Because the people are giving these jobs to their friends, to their families. They also, too, are Democrats. These people who are around that area are brainwashed lefties they're running the place. So this claim of the deep state already is on the books. It's 100% legit. There is a deep state, and they do not like Donald Trump because Donald Trump, they bought all this lie. They got fed all this bogus information from China and Russia, and they fell for it. And obviously, they need to get removed from power because they're now an asset of the Chinese government and Russian government. They are inside of the government, they're looking at everything through a Democrat lens. It's just like the other 86% of scientists here. Let's look at this chart. Do we have the chart? I did save it. Let me see if it's up. So it's in the new one, Antifa, Democrats. So here is an article that shows you the voting preferences. This is from Pew Research. It says from July 9th, 2009, public praises science, scientists fault media, scientific advances less permanent than a decade ago. Less prominent than a decade. Okay, so what does this say? So we see in here the voting. It wasn't the exact one. So we could see the notably the partisan differences in the views are fairly modest. With 80% 80% Democrat, 60%. Well, that's not what I wanted to see. Looking for the percent of their voting characteristics. More than half of the scientists, 55%, are actual Democrats. 52% of the scientists consider themselves liberal, and 20% describe 20% of the public describe themselves as liberal. 35% of the public describe themselves as Democrat. So not quite twice the numbers. And then the independent, only 6%. I don't know where it's at. Only here it is. Look right here. 6% are Republican. Only 6%. And then what does it say? So when you put in the independent people, if they vote for Democrats, so you could say you're independent, but if you're always voting for a Democrat, they get labeled as Democrat. If they're independent, but they always vote for a Republican, you label them Republican. If they're have back and forth, then they're an independent, because a lot of people speak out of both sides of their mouth, not listening. But scientists, they engage in groupthink. They have a heterodoxy, means same orthodoxy. They have a very steep hierarchy. It's a authoritarian hierarchy. Definitely, I'm an engineer. I get in trouble. I have been canceled. That's why I'm on the intellectual dark web. So, so what is the what about the scientist? What was the article that we were reading? The QAnon conspiracy theory, going back to the QAnon. So the people who are working for these agencies, they have a tendency to hire people who are who they have a tendency of firing racist people and hiring people who are friendly to minorities. They have to for the diversity reasons due to the extra lawsuits that they can get from the Civil Rights Act and the, what is the other one they use? The Americans with Disabilities Act, the Hatch Act. No, that's not it. So the people who are in the deep state, they're typically minority friendly minorities to work at federal government agencies because it's not legal for them to do so. And so people, when they work in a workplace, they are indoctrinated into that workplace in the groupthink in that workplace, which is oftentimes incredibly authoritarian, very far right. Every single corporation with a CEO and like that has more than maybe, let's say, some number of hundreds of people, maybe even dozens, they all have a very steep hierarchy. So when you say far right, meaning steep hierarchy, you would label any sort of corporation as far right because they have a authoritarian structure. If you violate the rules, you will be quickly removed. But if the government starts doing this, it will lead into mass slaughter and you being thrown in jail for stupid reasons, being tortured, having your property taken away. So the deep state in Washington, D.C., definitely, they're very Democrat. They hate Donald Trump. They are goody-goody. They've been buying all this fake news from MSNBC that they've been getting fed through. This all started through the Steele dossier that had all of the bunk information from Russia, where they said Donald Trump had sex with hookers, did golden showers. They got videos. They're compromat. Turned out to be a lie. They do that. They actually do that to people. They probably used Epstein's hooker network to do that, but they probably could not get dirt on Donald Trump, and that's probably why they said that. And then they started flipping out about all of the fake news from MSNBC, Southern Poverty Law Center, Wikipedia, on fake BLM, Facebook. And then they started doing things that were illegal. So the QAnon conspiracy theory is saying there's probably some people who are working for some powerful, incredibly powerful people. For instance, heads of Chinese Nazi Party, Russian oligarchs. They have hooker networks. They keep calling them sex slaves in the media, but as you can see from the Jeffrey Epstein thing, when you zoom in, or as I like to say, zoom, you can see that it's just a bunch of rich dudes who will fuck anything that moves, who are hiring masseuses to give them massages and to jerk them off and let them wank it. Whatever they want, that's what they do. But they're calling it a sex slave. I'm calling that bullshit because the fact is, if you have an 18-year-old hooker, you're going to have, statistically speaking, she's going to be friends with a 17-year-old hooker. And if you have a 17-year-old hooker, statistically speaking, she's going to be friends with a 15-year-old hooker. And you, as a parent, it is your job to teach your child to not be a prostitute, a hooker, to give creepy old dudes hand jobs for money. Just say no. Say, look, don't be a hooker chick. You're not a ratchet. You're not a doorknob. Everybody does not get a turn. If you take money for sex, that would make you a prostitute. I'm not going to feel bad for you. I'm going to shame you for being a prostitute and saying you should not be a hooker. You should not sleep around. You should probably get married and have a baby and be a mom. But the Russians are going to come in to Epstein's network as soon as they can and try to use the hookers to get compromat on people like Bill Clinton, right? Of course they're going to try to do that. They're Russian spies. They're oligarchs. They're powerful business people trying to get money. They're people, narcotics traffickers, people with kilos of cocaine, massive tons of cocaine, like yachts full of cocaine. Do you know anybody with a yacht full of cocaine? Can you take me to a yacht full of cocaine? Seriously. You should comment on issue 69 on GitHub that you can take me to a yacht full of cocaine. We'll also settle for a yacht full of booze and naked chicks. So they're saying it's a bunch of conspiracy, but as you can see, there's lots of evidence here. In fact, there's even court trials going on with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's definitely rumor. There's lots of talk that Bill Clinton was a part of this hooker network. I do not believe that it is a pedo network. I think that that is misunderstood, because once you know that statistically speaking, if you have an 18-year-old prostitute, you're going to have a 17-year-old prostitute. And then if you have a 17-year-old prostitute, you're statistically going to have a 16-year-old prostitute. First off, you have to notice that there's a network of prostitutes and that the girls are recruiting themselves because they want to be models, like for Jeffrey Epstein's model agency. And you know what? I fully endorse every single person who has a modeling agency to have sex with the models. I think that you should have all kinds of crazy drugged out orgy parties, film them. I think that the chicks should give you massages. They should allow you to jerk off. And this is not prostitution. It is absolutely not sex slavery. This is called sex and money. If you don't like it, don't go to the party. But if you do go to the party, you will notice that there's mobs of incredibly beautiful chicks who are down DTF. They are DTF. They are raw doggers. They're out there twerking. They are looking for an alpha male. They definitely want to have fun tonight. They might even let you stick it in their butt and they'll suck you off afterwards. But just because you paid a woman to rub herself up in oil and give you a massage and then a hand job afterwards, that does not make it a sex slavery. So that part of the QAnon conspiracy theory, I'm going to have to say is just a conspiracy theory, because these people have never actually been to a good party. So they're just kind of theorizing what it would actually be like at a wild, crazy, drugged out sex party. I've had experience in these endeavors. So I could definitely vouch for the fact that there are actually ratchets and they are like doorknobs and they will actually give everyone a turn. This is not prostitution. This is just called reality. In fact, actually, they're probably actually doing this somewhere near your house. And if you check out on Facebook and ask around, and if you find anybody who is actually doing this, you should hit me up, because I am down like a clown. In this next article from Hacker News, gender is what you make of it. This is from, where's it from? Nodal.us. It's not secure. I have no idea what it is. Came from a hacker, probably getting hacked right now. It says, gender is what you made of it. Margaret Mead, Ruth Bennett, and a relationship that has changed social scientists. And so what these people are trying to claim here is that just because you want to be a specific gender, that this is going to make everybody of the opposite sex now want to have sex with you and have a relationship with you. And let me vouch for this. I do love trans people. I think they're wonderful people. I enjoy my time with them. I'm not dissing on them. I'm dissing on the lefties here. The reality of the situation is I am 38 years old. And for me, most of the women can't have babies anymore. So when I meet a woman, I want to meet a woman so I can have another baby because I only have one child and it was a very horrible relationship. Did not end well. And I would like another baby. And so for me, I'm not going to waste my time with a chick if she can't have a baby, unless she's way super hot. Like, you got to be really hot. Or else I'm going to find a younger woman who can have a baby because it's a life or death situation for my genes for me to do this. So, in that case, when I'm dating someone and I'm on the internet, I need to know your gender because you are not entitled to my time. As much as I would love to hang out with you, and I would actually probably go on a date with you, I want you to be honest with me. I do not want you to conceal something. If you are saying that you are a trans woman, I know exactly what you mean. If you're saying that you're a trans man, I know exactly what you mean. But if you are unable to have a baby and you are presenting yourself as someone who can, this is not honest. A lot of people that they call trans exclusionary radical feminists or TERFs, a lot of them turn out to be women who trans women or trans men have attempted to get into a relationship with or just have sex with, and they didn't like it. And for a woman, she doesn't have many years. She can only really have a baby. She can only date the men that she wants to date from the ages of 18 until maybe 30 or something. She doesn't have a big window. Guys got a really big window. Women does not. So when a woman wants to date somebody, she wants to have a relationship so she can have a family. She doesn't want to just fuck you just because you're there or you're cute or you got a sex change. She's actually trying to reproduce. I know this sounds crazy, but you have a penis so that you can reproduce. A woman has a vagina because they're awesome. But this does not mean that she's trying to exclude you from everything. This means that she wants a traditional relationship. She wants a man. She wants a family. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good thing. In fact, if she doesn't want that, there's something wrong with her. You might not want to date her. Or, hey, she might not be able to have a baby. Yeah, this might not apply to them, but most people can have babies. So you got to look at everything as what it is. And I personally think that the honest route is the good route. You should not be trying to force me to use specific gender pronouns to make you feel comfortable. If you aren't comfortable in your own skin, there's nothing I can do. You are going to go downhill. If that small of a thing sets you off, you're probably going to kill yourself. So I would advise you to not be petty about things that don't matter. If someone calls me a woman or if somebody calls me ma'am, I would laugh at them. I would say that's pretty funny. I would suggest that you do the same thing because your life will be a lot better and people will like you a lot more, and we won't have to talk about all this gender politics bullshit. And in the next fake news article from the Daily Mail, Bill Gates. Oh, wait, hold on. I got to re-record these things. I'm trying to chop them up. In this next fake news article from the Daily Mail, Bill Gates says the White House muzzled the CDC in its coronavirus response. Microsoft founder Bill Gates, 64, slammed the U.S. coronavirus response on Friday, criticizing testing and blasting the White House for having muzzled the CDC. And so what he's saying is that Donald Trump took control over the COVID data to send it directly to the White House because some numbers were being politicized, mainly the number of ICU beds. And they were being used to drum up fear in fake news articles. And this makes it a legitimate reason for him to do this because it's a matter of national security and it affects the election that he is a party to. So the number of ICU beds, most hospitals are small hospitals. My mom's a travel nurse. She works at hospitals. And she thinks this whole thing about the ICU beds is silly because she's seen the ICUs in most of these places. And well, not most of these places. She knows what the ICUs look like from traveling to she's worked at a lot of different hospitals. And they are very easy to fill up. So it's a very easy thing to politicize. So they're saying there's this huge spike in infections, and it's because there's outbreaks in cities that tried to flatten the curve, but they found that indeed it was a freight train that was just going, and everybody's going to get it. In fact, I remember back in let's look at the what did I actually say? Oh, no, I don't want that one. This, let's look. Here, actually, I just want to look over here. I will bust out the video. Here we have. There is a video. I'm looking for it. Oh, yeah, there's multiple pages. There's a lot of videos. All right, here it is. This is the video. This was one of the first videos. It says 50% of 25 million Californians expected to be infected. U.S. military preparing response. So this was at the beginning of the pandemic. One of the first videos for this channel. And so they just expected 50% of people to be infected. So it's a little bit irritating when they run all this stuff about all of this fear about the infections. It's like, yeah, we thought that was going to happen from the very beginning, but for the fake news industrial complex to exist, they have to perpetually drum up fear in order to click on the article. And so the number of ICU beds, when you put this data out, also becomes a attack vector for hostile agents who can come in and spread COVID intentionally in places where the ICU beds are filled up in order to kill people from lack of medical care. This is a good reason for the head of the United States military to be the one who's in control of that, to make, because only 6% of was that 6% of right up here. chart. I forget if it's 6 or 8% of Republicans are Democrats. Oh, come on. Where's it at? Where is it? Sorry. Yeah, 6%. Only 6% of scientists are Republican. So we've got Democrats who are engaging in fake news, who are causing Democrat race riots with BLM Antifa Nazis. They're killing hella people. They killed like 13 people in these protests. On the night of broken glass, the Nazis killed 91 people. So let's do the math. When you take 13 divided by 91 and you multiply it by 100, America is 14.2857% Nazi. So give them a round of applause, pat on the back. Americans are not Nazis. Just a little bit. So these scientists are crazy radicalized. So the liberals usually vote for Democrats. 55% actually are Democrats, and then 32% are independents who usually vote for Democrats. This makes them a brainwashed swarm of drones, brainwashed by cultural Marxism from the Chinese Nazi Party, from fake news, from spies on Wikipedia, and far leftist who've made Wikipedia a brainwashing propaganda outlet. And what the hell does this have anything to do with it? So that's why Donald Trump did that. Donald Trump is not trying to be malicious by taking that. The number of ICU beds is something that can be used as a method to deliver biological weapons to the United States to kill them. That is called a cyber weapon. That makes that information privileged information. The only thing that you need to know is that we're never going to run out of ICU beds. This is what they don't understand. If you understand that, you're like, okay, sounds perfectly reasonable. But to these people, they look at everything through a politicized lens. I, too, used to also look at everything through a politicized lens. This next article from the Daily Mail: no cases of school pupils passing on coronavirus to their teachers exist, experts say. All the available evidence points to children being poor spreaders of the virus, says Professor Mark Woolhouse. So the fearmongers on the left here in America are trying to prevent the kids from going to school. They're saying, oh no, the older teachers are going to get COVID and die, so we can't open the schools. Like, all right. So if you're too, so let me get this straight. You're too old to do the job. Now you have a health condition that prevents you from doing the job. It's no longer safe for you to do the job. So nobody can get an education anymore because old people might get COVID. This is crazy. This is absolutely lunatic. To say that we should not have the kids going to school because some old person might die from COVID is just quite frankly stupid. Only an idiot would think that. Professor Mark Woolhouse said all evidence points to children being poor spreaders. A modeling forecast published last week predicted a tsunami of new cases, but the professor said a second study in the same journal had largely been ignored. And I think I've already covered the reason why children are not going to ever have to worry about SARS-CoV-2. It's going to be like a common cold for them. Already it is like a common cold. very small chance that you could die, that you could have an immune system response where your white blood cells kill you. It is not, SARS-CoV-2 does not kill you. SARS-CoV-2 has never killed anyone. Your white blood cells kill you. That is a huge difference in between saying that this is something that is going to be dangerous in the future and something that is only dangerous right now because nobody's had it before and they're having an autoimmune response to it. Their body can't. Older people have fought off so many different infections that their body is getting wrong messages. The leukocytes are targeting the wrong cells and eating them until they shut down. So with the young kids, if they get COVID and this is for them, it's just like getting a cold. It's just like getting a cold. So, given by the fact that about half of the people that have died from COVID, here's the numbers. Whoa. Sorry, yeah. There's the numbers. You can count them up. 85 and over, 34,435. 75 and over, 27,529. So you add up these two groups of people. See, like Ebola, that one's straight up crazy. See, why does it make that one's one of those diseases where your body Ebola is replicating in your body and your body can't tackle it because your white blood cells could take out almost anything if it like knows what it is, because it'll just eat whatever cell is in there. But the flu is like that for children, but older people are less likely to die of the flu than younger people. But it's opposite for SARS-CoV-2, which implies it's going to be like the rest of the coronaviruses. And it's just going to be like a common cold. It's just going to go away. And the media, the fake news industrial complex absolutely was like throwing a fit when Donald Trump said this. And it's completely true. It's completely true. It's SARS-CoV-2 has some things where it could be like flu in the future. But just the fact that children, like, look at this, under 15, the first 103,339, which is good enough sample size to generalize. That means you don't need to update the numbers to the percentages of all the statistics are going to stay the same because the sample size is so big. Unless we get better medicines. So there was only 26 people under the age of 15. Fake news media was saying that this was... Facebook took down Donald Trump's post about this, about him saying that children were immune from SARS-CoV-2. And as it turns out, it was totally true. You can see the evidence right here. You can go look it up at the CDC. Don't take anything from me. I'm just presenting you the data. You need to look it up yourself. Everybody makes an accident. I'm not going to say I'm accident free. I'm going to say I put in enough rigor to where the accidents are very few, but sometimes I misread stuff and I type stuff wrong, miss words, mix up county and precinct or other stuff. What else am I here? We're running short on stories. We have good ones here. Here's in this next article from the Daily Mail, one of Jeffrey Epstein's quote unquote sex slaves claims a quote unquote massage guru introduced her to Ghislaine Maxwell. Shantae Davies was 21 and training a trainee massage therapist when her quote unquote, boy, a lot of quote unquotes, mentor, Gypsy Gita took her to the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills to give Ghislaine Maxwell a massage. So here is an example of one of these quote unquote sex slaves. So look, the definition of a sex slave is that you are being human trafficked for sex. If you are being human trafficked, this means you are being held against your will, or you are being threatened. You have been held underneath against your will, and then you have what's that syndrome where you're like like you've been kidnapped and like you get on the side of your kidnapper. I forget what it's called. I'm just going to call it kidnappee syndrome for right now, where they join their kidnapper. This isn't happening here. It's not. It's fake news. What happened with Jeffrey Epstein? Like it's in court documents. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein was fucking anything that can move. He wants to have sex with hookers multiple times a day. If I was a billionaire, I might be having sex with hookers multiple times a day, having crazy sex parties on an orgy island. Wouldn't be having anybody under the age there because not attracted to them in any way, shape, or form. Do not wish to be Me Too'd. But would I hire a masseuse to give me a massage? So let's see. What did I have that one thing up there from the UK? So they keep showing this image, and I think I can pull it up real quick. I got to debunk it again because they keep showing this. They keep showing this image of Virginia Giuffre. Okay. Sorry. This one. Prince Andrews is a pedophile. He had a sex slave. And then you go look into the story. It's like, okay, well, they're in the United Kingdom. I forget exactly what they were doing when this was taking place. You can look it up yourself. But the age of consent, Virginia Giuffre is, she's like, how old is she now? Was she like 38 when it happened? And then this was 2001. So you do the math, she's 17 years old when it happened. The age of consent is 17. And prostitution is legal there. Okay, it's not legal to engage in prostitution with a minor. It is legal to have sex with someone who is between the ages of 16 and 18 in the UK. This is Wikipedia, which is known for fake news. But I've looked it up on other sources too. In fact, if you donate to the show, I am the founder of WikiSpy, a tool to monitor Wikipedia for tampering from hostile agents and political bias. I'm going to be fitting all of Wikipedia into the unused memory on your computer so that you can do artificial intelligence with my startup productivity software and memory augmentation technology using adversarial search technology to compress Wikipedia into attempting to do a 1 gigabyte of RAM with whatever RAM you got in your GPU and infinite cache, which is a very exotic programming technique. So we do that. You'll be able to fact check Wikipedia a lot better. I have a scheme, a really advanced artificial intelligence algorithm has not been attempted before, using very sophisticated memory mapping technique for Wikipedia to do using the infinite cache and the GPU neural nets in order to answer questions instantaneously using the excess processing power on your computer. And so what am I doing? Okay, so I showed the picture. That was Virginia Guthrie. There's some other good ones here. In this next article from NPR, Virginia Supreme Court grants temporary moratorium on evictions. In a 4-3 decision Friday, the state's high court granted a request by Governor Ralph Northam to allow a pause to eviction proceedings. The decision halts evictions through September 7th. That's great. I think we, definitely should be halting evictions. You shouldn't be getting kicked out. We don't need to increase the homeless population. They're all getting twacked out on cartel dope. You don't want them taking shits on the sidewalk. Yeah. I don't know what to think personally about rent control. They say it doesn't work in big cities, but I think big cities are run by corrupt Democrats. I don't actually believe anything that they say. They've proven themselves to be liars time after time. They're brainwashed drones. So there's not really actually anything that they can say about rent control that would really swing me on it without more evidence from Republican-controlled cities. But it definitely seems as though the rent in the big cities is out of control, and it causes these leeches to form in these Democrat cities where they get taken over by the public employee unions because everyone else can't afford to live there. And the lefties, they want socialism because the rent is so out of control, insane, that they want socialism. And they keep saying it doesn't work, and they have to blame somebody. They can't take the responsibility for it. Their own bad policies, and then the way that they bias, because big cities have to have it. It's kind of like a scam. It is a scam. There has to be enough people making money on the scam to keep the scam going. But you cannot have enough people on the scam because you need to take that money. This is the way big cities run by Democrats work. It is rather sad. In California, it is an absolute shithole. It's a hellhole. I would never want to live in California. I don't want California people moving here. Canadians don't want Americans moving up there. Americans don't want, or Mexicans don't want Americans moving over there and taking over their land. But they've been taking over our land so much, we're just going to beta mail them and cuck them. We're just going to start spilling over on the borders and start taking over Mexico. Because if you want to play that game, we have way more slutty white chicks than you can shake a stick at, and they will be baby factories. Because why? America? Fuck yeah. You should be a slutty white baby factory for the country, for the good of the country, for Donald Trump. Make America great again. I'm joking. That's a total joke. If you want to have a competition on who could send the least brightest and the worst people over to each other's country, bro, You have never been to the hood, homie. We will send everyone from the hood to Mexico to cuck you, bro. Turn you into a beta male. What does this have to do with Supreme Court evictions? I don't know. I don't think this has anything to do with the article. In this next article from Newsweek, US intelligence lists China, Russia as equal elections threat, but only one opposes Trump. United States intelligence agencies warned Russia and China are actively involved in the 2020 election interference, but the two countries are not using their efforts to quote unquote denigrate the same political candidate. The Russians are denigrating Mr. Magoo, aka Joe Biden, aka Obama 2.0. The president. A lot of people think that everything was just groovy under Obama. Like race relations were just great under Obama and everything. You know, we elected a black president and then all of a sudden, like, life was great. Everybody was holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and not so much. No, in fact, actually, this was when the race relationships went sour. And as it turns out, 72% of America is white. And the movement has been to try to prevent us from enforcing our immigration policies by shaming us as racist. But this totally isn't working at all anymore. Like, we're not brainwashed anymore. It's not going to work. And what does this have to do with? Okay, so Mr. Magoo. So Mr. Magoo is getting backed up by China, the cultural Marxist. So Mr. Magoo, his plan, if he's elected president, is he going to give out $15,000 to minorities who are first-time homeowners, home buyers, and he's going to give loans to minorities, and then he's going to make the Federal Reserve talk about race. Because, you know, that's like what the Federal Reserve is supposed to be doing. And then Russia likes Trump. And you just got to ask yourself, is Russia the same thing as China? Like, is it really China, Russia? Are they on the same side? So you got to ask yourself, you're a Russian businessman. You want to go sell in China. So you got to deal with who? The Chinese Nazi Party, right? They're going to do what? They're going to put all these restrictions on you. If they don't like what you're doing, they're going to seize your assets because they're National Socialists. You can have private property until they need to commandeer it for the war effort, in which case it's socialized, which is National Socialism. That's the definition of National Socialism. But people just didn't even notice this. I'm a computer programmer, and I noticed the hierarchy of it. I was like, man, these two things are the same. And you look even farther into it, and China is legit straight up Nazi. And so the Nazis, they're siding with the Democrats. And it just so happens we've got BLM Antifa Nazi riots. And then the Russians, they seem to be putting out hilarious troll memes. And they seem to be trolling us and fucking with us pretty hard. And to that, I say, hell yeah, those are some pretty good memes. That was awesome. No, to the Chinese, I say, that's fucking freaky, man. I would go to Russia, though. I would. I wouldn't be afraid to go to Russia. I would never go to China. Ever. I would never go to China. First off, I regularly criticize the dictator Winnie the Pooh because he's very out of shape. He would get his ass kicked in a fight. Might die from COVID due to the poor condition that he's in. And so this is fundamentally, I think, the reality of the world. What has Russia done recently? Yeah, the USSR killed a lot of people. Russia is an oligarchy. It's not communist, but I don't think they're going back. If you ask Putin, do you want to give up all your money for all of your comrades? He would say, fuck off. He would. He definitely would not give you the time of day. Say, no, you're not going to take my money. So, I don't really see China as being the threat here. If they are able to actually hit us with like troll farms and memes and people are that dumb, I think that we deserve it. I really do. I just think if you're that big of a sucker, man, we need to troll those people even harder. See, we need to join with the Russians with these troll memes and just hit them as hard as we can with the most hilarious digital art that we can. Memes. We'll win. There's nothing that you can do if we united with Russia in order to own the libs. I think that you would see that your memery skills are very juvenile, that you got punked really hard, and that it was rather embarrassing how shit quality your memes were. This next article from Hacker News: Chinese officials hacked my company. They're probably going to hack my computer when I click on it too. What is it? Archive.vn? Why am I clicking on these websites from Hacker News? Dude. Some from like Wall Street Journal, how Chinese officials hacked my company. This is the story of how the Chinese hacked my computer. When I clicked on the news from Hacker's Best. Well, yeah. Probably shouldn't be using Windows. I think I'm switching over to Linux here pretty soon. This next article from Hacker News: Intel, ARM, and AMD processors vulnerable to a new sidechain hack. This is from thehackernews.com. And it says, it turns out the root cause behind several previously disclosed speculative execution attacks against modern processors, such as Meltdown and Foreshadow, was misattributed to prefetching effect, resulting in hardware vendors releasing incomplete mitigations and countermeasures. Sharing its findings with the Hacker News, a group of academics and Gray's University of Technology and CISPA Helmholtz Center for Information Security finally revealed the exact reason why the kernel addresses are cached in the first place, as well as presented several new attacks that exploit the previously unidentified underlying issues following hackers to sniff out sensitive data. And during the time that I took to read this article, they probably actually hacked all of my passwords, so I'm going to get the fuck out of here. In this next article from the Daily Mail, oil tanker runs aground off Mauritius, spilling 4,000 tons of fuel into the Indian Ocean. the Prime Minister of Mauritius has declared a state of environmental emergency after nearly 4,000 tons of oil were spilled into the Indian Ocean when a bulk carrier ran aground on a coral reef. Oh, damn. This place relies on tourism. It's absolutely beautiful there. And they just had an oil spill on their coral reef. Oh, ouch. That sucks. I don't like oil. I think we should get rid of it. Luckily, I think there's a new battery technology about to revolutionize the world, the sodium battery. And then they also have room temperature fusion coming soon. Room temperature fusion. We covered that on the last episode of Real Simple News from the IEEE Spectrum magazine. In this next article from Newsweek, 196 fugitives walked out of a halfway house in Texas. Dozens of violent criminals and sexual predators are now fugitives after skipping parole in Houston. Woo! Many of those who skipped parole were staying at the taxpayer-funded Southeast Texas Transitional Center, have committed violent crimes, including rape, murder. Crime Stoppers and Andy Cohen told Fox 26 Houston, quote, a lot of these offenders are convicted of sexually related offenses. They have to be released and are released on parole up to the end up at that facility, end quote, said Cohen. This particular halfway house in Vermont Highway in Houston is not a lockdown facility. It is one of 5 transitional facilities in the state that houses sex offenders when they are released from jail. 5 men living at the facility do not wear uniforms, but some wear ankle monitors. Under the terms of their release, they're allowed to come to and go from the facility as long as they meet their parole meetings every night. The ex-prisoners can enroll in, quote, evidence-based rehabilitation programs, end quote, according to the website of the GEO group, which operates the facility. The offenders are allowed to carry cell phones and have jobs. If they violate the conditions of their parole, a warrant is issued for their arrest. In the first half of 2020, around 90 offenders failed to meet the parole and fled the facility, making them fugitives. These men included 3 prisoners on lifetime parole, 5 convicted of killing, and 23 registered sex offenders. They're coming to your neighborhood, so you should live in fear. You should click on the articles so that some ivory tower liberal can make money off of you being afraid. That was, of course, a joke. In this next article from the Daily Mail, police record 172 vegan hate crimes in the past 5 years. Last year, 1.16% of the population, about 600,000 people, were vegan, according to studies by IPSOS Mori. It quadrupled from 150,000 in 2014. Where's it been? Vegan hate crimes? So this is in Britain. Some battling for discrimination based on dietary choice to become hate crimes. Last year, 600,000 people. So this is just crazy. These people in Europe are lunatics, dude. Like, so what they're saying it's a hate. $172 crimes relating to veganism happened in the past 5 years. Just 9 in 2015. 55 years. Hey, it's in the ballpark of how many far right people have killed people in the past 25 years. Yeah. There was just 9 in 2015, rising to 55 last year, according to the Times. So here, Animal revolution activists pouring dye into Tarfer Square fountains. It says people over profit? I don't know. I can't read it. Profit. People over profit is what that said. So what are these hate crime? What are they saying? This is just so ape shit. Like, what the hell is going on here? Last year, 1.16% of the population, 600,000 people, were vegan, according to the study. We already covered that. It comes after vegan Jordi Casamonte won landmark case after their lawyers argued ethical veganism satisfies the test required to be a philosophical or religious belief. At a tribunal in Northwich at the beginning of the last year, Judge Robin Postal ruled ethical veganism satisfies the test required and therefore is protected under the Equality Act of 2010. Sorry. Mr. Casamonte, 55, claimed he was dismissed from a job at the League Against Cruel Sports after raising concerns that its pension fund was being invested into companies involved in animal testing. Okay, come on. Sorry about that. He claimed he was unfairly disciplined for making this disclosure and that decisions to dismiss him was because of philosophical belief in ethical veganism. This case could be used as a precedence for vegans to argue their beliefs should be protected. Okay. Founder of the NO2H8 Awards, Fayaz Magal called for a legal review into hate crime. The Crown Prosecution Service defined a hate crime as being motivated by hostility or demonstrating hostility towards a person's protected characteristics. So let me get this straight. Hostility towards a person's protected characteristic. So you mean, like, if you were trash talking women wearing burqas, that's like a hate crime? Or if I say you vegans are effing crazy, go eat a piece of bacon and or grow some a backbone, right? Is that a hate crime? Where's the line drawn? Is it like just kind of like you were like joking, or like you actually were like disrespecting their burqa? Is this like anytime I disrespect somebody's burqa is in Europe, am I going to expect to go to jail? This is ape shit. So what they're saying is like dissing on veganism or like taunting a vegan with a steak, right? This is now a hate crime. Europeans are ape shit crazy, dude. These people are fucking lunatics, dude. Good thing they're absolutely incompetent most of the times, and they actually are not a threat because they'll just be bumbling idiots, and we would totally just whoop their ass. And they would just rather trade with us. But it does appear as though they've gone completely crazy over there in Europe. It seems as though the people there say, no, freedom of speech. We have other rights. Freedom of speech is not that big of a deal. Really? So, what is the consequence for hate speech? Right. Social exclusion, fines, jails, being targeted by the government. So, what makes you think that your political opponents aren't going to start using hate speech in order to exclude you, have the government come after you, cancel you? Right? This is no longer, we're not talking about at this point in time whether or not it's okay to outlaw hate speech because you have other rights and you don't need them. We now see this becomes an attack vector to attack you, so they can come cancel you and take your shit. So this is freaky. This is the loony keeps cranking up. You see, this is the thing about Europe. They're always trying to copy us because we're way cooler than them. And it's like a game of telephone, right? So like it starts off with like Johnny was like hanging out with Susie and he brushed up against her and right. And then it turns into Johnny hit Susie and then he raped her. This is how it started. This started as Johnny accidentally brushed up against Susie and then kissed her, right? Maybe she liked it, maybe she didn't, right? But in the end of the game of telephone, it turned into he just savagely beat her and raped her. So this is the danger about hate speech. I personally have been canceled. I personally definitely try to engage in as much free speech as I can engage in. I definitely find it distasteful to insult people, but I will criticize. I will call out lunatics when I see them. Definitely myself against fascism and against treating people poorly, but I view racism as free speech. I've always said my entire life that I do not like your speech. I do not agree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. I think that this is lost. A lot of these people protesting are a younger generation who's been spoiled their entire life, and they are out rioting over stuff that never happened to them. That's what's happening here in Oregon, where there's hardly any black people. 1.9% of the state's black. There's hardly any police shootings, and then they're out rioting for like 67 days, 68 days straight. Like you can't even count how many days straight these people are rioting. It's a multi-month riot. They're terrorizing the community, making people feel unsafe. I feel like somebody could bust in and shoot me in the head at any moment. That's how I feel. I've been living like this for years because of the lefties, because of my experience joining the Walk Away campaign when I realized after I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest that I had been a feminist my entire life, and that even though I had known these people for decades, that I had been a feminist my whole life and helped start the protest, that if I criticized feminism, they would turn on me. And then I started posting Meninist jokes on Facebook. And then the lefties started flipping a wig. And then it started ramping up and they couldn't stop trolling me. And they kept saying it's me, I'm being toxic. And what they don't understand is I'm trying to go about my tasks, program AI, do research papers, all my stuff. I was also in court, battling through court for custody of my child. I was kidnapped by a radical leftist who held my son in a hoarder house, neglected my son. It looked like the inside of a trash can. The bed, I literally was like, where's the bed at? Like, that's it. Like, that looks like a pile of trash. Where's the bed at? Like, that's it. That's where my son had to sleep because of a radical feminist kidnapping him. And so these people, they can't see that. They can't see, oh, well, this guy's had a lot of bad experiences where the feminist thing has burned him. All they can see is this guy is criticizing feminism. Feminism is like the sacred calf You can't criticize the women being oppressed and underpaid. And when you start looking into it, the women actually are the richest people in the country. Women own 2/3 of the wealth in the U.S., control 85% of consumer spending. So anybody trying to tell you they're underpaid is lying to you. They work 50 minutes less per day. Men are underpaid. It's true. It's actually true. Men are actually underpaid. They work 50 minutes less per day. Women own 2/3 of the wealth in the United States. You do the freaking math, man. The reason why they got so much money is because men give them things. They date older men. Older men teach them how to make money. Makes them more prosperous. But this stuff over there is hate speech. So where's the hate speech line drawn? It's supposed to be when you're calling somebody, for instance, the N-word. Even though the black people call themselves that, the African Americans, you have to discriminate in between the African Americans and the Africans. The Africans are all saying, I do not lump me in with those people. We are different. In fact, Africans are the highest paid group of people, of immigrants in the entire country. But you can't criticize the African Americans for their bad grades. You can't do that, man. You can't show this chart because then you're racist now. Hey, all right, here's a graph of all the people's grades. The white people, the Asians, the Latinos, the African Americans. You can see at the bottom, you have the African Americans lollygagging in last place, below the 3.0 cutoff mark for the good schools. And so if you bring that up, you just now insulted a characteristic of a protected class of people because facts are now racist. You cannot point out somebody's faults in order to help them become a better person because black people are weaker in the liberals' minds. But to me, I don't view black people as being inferior to white people. I view them as being somebody that would be very hard to fight and a good ally who would also be a good person to help me get laid. Right? When you think with your penis, the world actually starts to work quite a bit better. There's a lot less stupid shit. But in Europe, you couldn't say that. But in America, what the leftists do is they constantly engage in these incredibly racist stereotypes. They're like, no, that's racist. You can't do anything. No, you can't say anything about the how bad the grades of the African Americans are. That's racist. Why? Well, just because the black people are weak and they can't protect themselves and you're a privileged white man. It's like, really? So they're a beta male and I'm like messing around with them, right? Every black dude's like, right? Right. Once you start to look at how the liberals are acting, you can start to see they have deeply rooted racist beliefs. Their beliefs are that black people are uneducated, poor, lazy, and they can't protect themselves because they're weak, basically meaning they're inferior. That's the stereotype. And they just operate in public like they're the white savior, like they're the one here coming to save the African Americans. Why are they doing this? Why do liberals act like this? The answer is the same reason why Black Lives Matter protesters hate Ted Wheeler. Black Lives Matter hates Ted Wheeler. Ted Wheeler tries to appease Black Lives Matter protesters by letting them loot and riot and terrorize the neighborhood for 67 days because he didn't want to control the crowd. He wanted them to vote for him. And they hated him. And so he has to do things for them that you wouldn't normally do. And so this is how the Democrats are extremely corrupt. It's because they are the hated ones. The African Americans hate them because they're not hiring them. They're keeping them down in poverty in the big city. It's a huge, massive scam. They're like covering it up. Once you pull the hood off the hood Democrats, once you know who the Democrats that are composed of, the demographics that go up to the ivory tower, it really is just like a complete embarrassment. You can sit here and talk shit for hours. I can have a show, an entire news show, where I sit around and talk hella shit about Democrats all day long, dude. I can keep going. I have material to go for into the future almost indefinitely until we have the Republican century and the Republicans have complete control, because everything they do is incredibly shameful. The white feminists who are in control of the Democrats, the ivory tower liberals are at the top. They're not all white feminists. Once you get to the top of the ivory tower, it is a mixed group of different power interests up top. It's not necessarily, they act like they're lefties, but in reality, a lot of times they're just only trying to get you to vote for them. And maybe they think about, they like the idea of Marxism, but in reality, they would never actually share their money with you. But the white people up in the cities, this is why they're pandering to the African Americans, because they're a big enough demographic that in order for them to get elected, they have to pander to this group of people. How do you pander to them? You give them what they want. And then they use ways that they can attack their mutual enemy. So what they did was they brainwashed the African Americans into thinking that the Republicans were racist, when in reality, it's actually the Democrats who are extremely racist. I think I've said enough about that one. I'm almost out of articles. Here's a interesting one. In this next article from the Daily Mail, a two-headed tortoise and museum mascot that turned 23 years old in 3 weeks is seen taking a bath. Yes, it's real. It's not CGI. It's actually a two-headed tortoise. So I personally think that we should start genetically engineering these things to make two-headed dragons. My personal belief, if you're not aware, I am the founder of the Church of the Infinite Simulations. It is a techno cult. We believe that we are in a supercomputer, and that we worship the great god Sudo. Sudo is the Linux super user do command, and the great Sudo is similar to the Pastafarian god. It's somewhat of a joke. So technically, I'm a cult leader. I had to check that box off the bucket list that said start cult. So I started a techno cult. And if you want to join the Church of the Infinite Simulations, you can leave a comment on issue 69 on GitHub or at realsimplenews.net/issue 69, where you can, or you can just find us at github.com/infinite simulations or infinitesimulations.github.io. You can help contribute to upgrade this website, because I don't really have a lot of time to update everything, but there's actually quite a in-depth theory here of how we're in a supercomputer. You can see it. I only have one post up here, the hello world, but this details to you how we are in a digital photonic neural net and how there are light forms. These are in a multiplexed life forms going on in a digital photonic neural net. And so I showed you here the mathematics of how there is actually a 0% probability chance that we're not in a supercomputer. It's actually legit math too. And how you can actually go about making a digital photonic neural net. If you're interested in contributing to an open source digital photonic neural net, I am Captain Kabuki, the captain of the Kabuki Starship, and I am actually leading a team of scientists and engineers that don't exist currently that you could join in order to make digital photonic neural nets. And I do actually have a really good design for a digital photonic neural net, which is basically a combination of an analog photonic neural net and a digital photonic, light controller. And it allows you to do some different things like biologically evolved, biomimicry stuff, like the, what is that? The time peak, synaptic firing, the amount of time in the peak. Instead of you going over a peak, you have a time that you go over. And so this allows you to do some biomimicry stuff. But I also have plans to build spaceships too. Got a cool design for an interstellar spaceship. It's got a really neat physics. It actually might be impossible to build, but it the goal is to live in outer space with the Kabuki Starship. And so the goal is to build it over a long period of time. So we might be able to build it. We're still doing the calculations on whether or not it's possible to build a Kabuki Starship. But if it is, trust me, you are in a supercomputer. Trust me. I might have actually been the person who built the supercomputer that you're in. I'm not joking. But we don't know. It's all just a theory. But you can, if you would like to debunk this, you can comment on issue ticket 69 in the Real Simple News repository or at issuesrealsimplenews.net/issue 69. So you had no idea I'm a cult leader, did you? Bitch, I'm Captain Kabuki, motherfucker. You ain't seen shit. Look, it's a two-headed turtle. Anything else? Hold on. I'm not doing anything about Portland. I'm going to set up another show for tomorrow. Those things are off. We talked about QAnon. TikTok suing. In this next article from the New York Post, TikTok reportedly plans to sue the Trump administration in a California court. TikTok will file a federal lawsuit against Donald Trump, the king of memes, to challenge last week's executive order banning the video sharing app from the United States. I would call it a spy app because, let's get real, you're giving the Chinese Nazi Party, who commits espionage to steal our intellectual property, the country that won't allow any of our social networks in. We're allowing them to bring a Trojan horse into our country and brainwash our teenagers. All right, that's completely illegal. That is absolutely completely illegal for a authoritarian Nazi regime that has murdered hundreds of millions of people to have a spy device in the pockets of children in the United States because it violates COPPA. Completely violates COPPA. These people are insane to think that they're actually going to be able to pull this off because Donald Trump can ban financial transactions with anybody who he wants to. Anybody. If he has a decent reason. If his reason isn't, I felt like fucking with this dude, or I don't know exactly whether or not he's the person, but maybe it kind of was like him, right? Like he has a reason where he can go into court and say these people are violating COPPA by taking information from the teenagers that they're brainwashing on TikTok using by implanting what are called reflex agents into their mind, using what is called atrocity propaganda, both run and attack boogeyman propaganda, as well as what is that called? I'm trying to remember when they switched the context. Context story editing. I'm going to call it context story editing. If you know the actual name of what I'm trying to think of, comment on issue ticket 69 on realsimplenews.net/issue 69. But the shit, now I forget what I was talking about. Damn it. Comment on issue 69 so you can tell me what the hell I was talking about. TikTok getting banned, going to court. Donald Trump can just say that these people are violating COPPA by taking the data that they're getting from these teenagers and sending it to Chinese companies who are utilizing it. Their government has been hacking our government. They've been hacking our corporations. They can use the device as a spy device. They can gather your pictures off of your phone. They can take the pictures from your phone without your knowledge, run them through AI algorithms, and they can track, they can pinpoint out images that they want to look at. They can tell everywhere you go. They know your entire contact list. When you go to work, your employer is now getting spied on by the Chinese Nazi Party. So obviously, Donald Trump has a reason to do this. So they're going to lose because he can come up with a much more half-brained excuse than that and win. But this one is a home run, much like most of what people are trying to say when they go against Donald Trump. It turns out Donald Trump was actually right. In this next article from Hacker News, dynamic branch prediction using neural networks. And it says 2001. That's actually really impressive. What was this? I don't know what the 2001 meant. The abstract says dynamic branch prediction in high-performance processors is a specific instance of a general time series prediction problem that occurs in many areas of science. In contrast, most branch prediction research focuses on a two-level adaptive branch predictive technique, a very specific solution to the branch prediction problem. An alternative approach is to look to other application areas and fields for novel solutions to the problem. In this paper, they examine the application of neural networks to dynamic branch prediction. Two neural networks are considered: a lecturing vector quantization, or LVQ network, and a backpropagation network. We demonstrate that a neural predictor can achieve misprediction rates comparable to conventional two-level adaptive predictors, and suggests that neural predictors merit further investigation. I'm going to have to say that's exactly what I'm doing with WikiSpy. Actually, it's kind of random. Yeah, I'm using neural networks on the memory address. So we're taking a block of contiguous memory. Goal is to try to fit Wikipedia into 1 gig of RAM, like a zip file that we unzip with neural networks on the GPUs or tensor processing units, or we also are trying to exploit an infinite cache programming technique to slip extra neural networks into the CPU while it's unused. And so basically what I'm doing with this is actually a form of this through an adversarial search, where we are taking multi-agent cooperative hide-and-seek environment, and we use this in order to do spy games on Wikipedia with WikiSpy. And you can donate to the show and you will fund these spy games. What we do is we create the interactive gym environment and educational kit, which will allow us to interact with Wikipedia on the RAM in our computers and the unused RAM on our GPU and unused computer processing power. And we will solve spy games to on Wikipedia in order to pack the memory into 1 gigabyte of memory using hide and seek to encrypt codes into using some sort of ingenious thing that I'm going to figure out with this sigma A star B equals sigma WX plus B. It's like an abstract stack machine. Told you I was Captain Kabuki. This next... In this next article from Hacker News, Yeet Wheel's potential in controlled environment vertical farms. This is from pnas.org, Proceedings in the National Academy of Science in the United States of America. It says, significance, wheat is the most important food crop worldwide, grown across millions of hectares. Wheat yields in the field are usually low and vary with weather, soil, crop management practices. So we show that yields for wheat grown indoor vertical farms under optimized growing conditions would be several hundred times higher than yields in the field due to higher yields, several harvests per year, and vertical stacked layers. Wheat grown indoors would use less land than field grown wheat, be independent of climate, reuse most water, exclude pest and disease, have no nutrient losses to the environment. However, given the high energy costs for artificial lighting and per capita cost, it's unlikely to become economically competitive with current market practices. Here in Oregon, weed is legal, and they like to take these outdoor greenhouses, and they basically they call it a light depth, and so they take the weed and they cover it up with these things that they could like open up, kind of like a sky roof, and then you can simulate the indoor grow room outside and produce indoor quality marijuana outside during summer months and produce multiple crops per season. And so I would just like to give a science a fuck yeah. Is there... In this next article from Hacker News, show HN : wrap a Python-based music library aware MIDI sequencer. This is from warpseq.com, warpseq.com. It's the Warp MIDI sequencer. It's a revolutionary new music theory-focused music sequencer for software and hardware synthesizers designed for both composition and dynamic live performance. Whoa, this is cool. This is really cool. Inspirations include some of our favorite hardware and software, such as Sequentix, Chirklon, and the Electron Mono Machine, and Ableton Live. Like Ableton, Warp is a grid-based, yet instead of piano roll, patterns are typed in with the emphasis of selective randomness, choreographed key changes, emergent behaviors. You haven't seen anything like it. It's Python, so you can hook it up to TensorFlow or MXNet. Here we can see here a demo of the Warp sequencer demos. Sounds like a synthesizer. You know what? I am an open source software geek. I make open source software most of my life. And so anytime I can get to plug somebody's open source software up here, dude, I'm going to be loving it. If you have an open source project, you should comment on issue ticket 69 on realsimplenews.net/issue 69. And I will plug for your open source project here up on Real Simple News to find you volunteers for your show, for your project. In this next article from Hacker News, Sage: semi-automatic ground environmental air defense system. It's from MIT Lincoln Laboratory. Says the semi-automatic ground environment, or SAGE, was the nation's first air defense system. It was the impetus for the establishment of the Lincoln Laboratory. The section below described the history of this seminal large-scale system engineering project and role that it has shaped in the culture of the Lincoln Laboratory as it exists. And put this up here because I make network protocols and a network. Well, it does actually have multiple different iterations. So network protocols. And I've actually learned a lot about how governments should work from studying network protocols, especially the DARPA model for the TCP, the original internet, the transmission protocol is a very respectable thing, how they did it. Definitely some military stuff right there. And studying stuff like this actually gives you a better grasp on governments, what their role is, and how they've actually helped our technology progress now to the point where we have a space station and we have reusable rockets that can land on boats, which is insane. So I would recommend you checking out this link. If you want to find it, I'll put it on the issue ticket there on GitHub. In this next article from the Daily Mail, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion stun their XXX rated WAP video. Cardi B, 27, and Megan Thee Stallion, 25, released the racy video for WAP Friday, yet many were unhappy with the cameo from Kylie Jenner, 22, who was accused of cultural appropriation. So let's see. Here we can see the boobs. See? They're almost over the hill, but I'd still tap that. And then we could see little glimpse in, and we could see they got a mansion. There's lots of boobs. I wouldn't quite call this XXX. I think it's a little bit, kind of normal here. But if you want to go see Cardi B's boobs, you should go check out that music video because I don't want to get demonetized. Shows you as much skin as I can get. You should donate to the show, and then I'll just show you the rest of the skin. I got one more article for you. In this next article from Hacker News, chemists create the brightest ever fluorescent material. Whoa, damn. Woo. Oops. This is from phys.org. I'm not sure if that is it. It says glowing 3D printed gyros made from the bright smiles material. Woo! Damn. Who's got the dose, homie? Let's go get some of this shit. By formulating positively charged fluorescent dyes into a new class of materials called small molecule ionic isolation lattices, or SMILES, a compound's brilliant glow can be seamlessly transferred to a solid crystalline state, researchers report August 6th in the Journal of Chemistry. Or, hold on, the journal Chem, CHEM. The advance overcomes a long-standing barrier to develop fluorescent solids, resulting in the brightest known materials in existence. These materials have potential applications in the adult industry, making dildos, sex toys, P-spot stimulators, as well as optical properties for solar energy, harvesting, bioimaging, and lasers, says Amar Flood, a chemist at Indiana University and co-senior author on this study, along with Bo Larson of the University of Copenhagen. And so these are definitely going to be cool to look at while you're on LSD. If you have any LSD, if you want to share with me, you can comment on issue ticket 69 at realsimplenews.net/issue 69. Sweet. All right, with that, I'm out. Thank you for watching Real Simple News on August 10th. It's a Sunday. Again, you've been watching Captain Kabuki, captain of the Kabuki Starship, reading you really simple syndication articles from the intellectual dark web because I got canceled. I have nothing else to do other than program AI software. This is a lot funner sometimes. But again, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. The best thing that you can do is share this video with your friends. If you do, expect them to be outraged that you don't believe their brainwashing nonsense. But trust me, there are a lot more of us than there are of you. Do not be afraid to speak your mind. You are not racist. You should actually get something out of it. If I'm going to vote for you, I want to get something out of it. If you don't have my back, I'm never going to vote for you. Don't expect me to be your friend or ever hire you or ever to be anything other than someone who's going to be competition that wants to shut you down, because that would be the natural response that you have from that. But until then, as I say every time, farewell, sayonara, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys.